Alrighty, everybody. 1 second. We are here. We're not queer, but that's okay. If people are already used to it. We're already here. We are. Some of us are. Yeah. I was talking about myself with the royal we there. Oh my lord, that was a catch. All right. Hold on. I'm gonna see how everybody's doing today. Hello, everybody. How is everyone doing? Okay, I may need to adjust this arm maybe a little low. Hello, everybody. We have begun some of our decorations. I have a shelf of things. Am I sick? I haven't drank any water this morning yet, so I may be a little dry. We've got an assortment of various goodies. We'll do it's not complete, so we'll do as it gets completed this week. If we get you a new chair, actually I'm going to buy myself a new chair. That's a good point. I should have been looking for specials for I'm an idiot. God damn it, I should have thought about that. I do need a new chair. Vio and I both need a new chair because they're both squeaky as fuck and it's annoying. You needed a chair as long as you needed a mic? Nah. Well, maybe that's true. Actually, but we have some books. Some of the books that I have out here. Some of my faves. I'd recommend the Chinese Herman Miller clones. I mean, I might do that. That sounds like a good idea, actually. How do you not have a Herman Miller? Because I haven't lived anywhere that I was like, I'm gonna definitely stay here for longer than a year. So I want to invest in a chair. That's the answer. But now that I've been here for over a year, I guess I should get a chair. Are you not moving with your stuff? Let's just say about 6 years ago, I gave away all of my furniture. So yeah, the long answer to that is no. How many times have I moved in 10 years? 10 years, a lot. But if you say 15 years, that's a lot. As you can see, chat, we have the tapestry behind me that one of our glorious fans made. Let me see if I could ever find their name. Fuck, I had their name, but now I'm in stupid bullshit. I'm in streamer mode, so I can't look through my messages. Sorry, chat. I'll tell you tomorrow. I want to give them proper credit. And then you know, we've got some knickknacks. We've got the squanch, various knickknacks, things that we enjoy. A 7.6 magnitude earthquake in northern Japan. Oof. Can we watch Z-Way's Class Warfare against Kevin Hart? Hell yeah. Herman Miller charges twice that of competitors for the same chairs. Herman Miller is the Apple of office chairs. You buy them for the name. Honestly, I'm going to start embracing Chinese replacement goods. Like all the luxury brands make shit in China anyway. I feel like I should be looking for Chinese brands. Like, what am I doing? I feel like there is this part of my brain, this like xenophobic part of my brain, the last part that hadn't quite died out, where it'd be like, you know what I mean? Where you're like, maybe Chinese stuff tends to be crappier, but it's like, no, it doesn't. That's Americans buying the cheapest crap so they can have higher margins. So I need to be looking for Chinese luxury brands. My wife informed yesterday that 60% of adults in the United States reads and write at a 4th grade level or worse. We are screwed. Oh yeah, it's getting worse too with AI. You're gonna replace this with the Billy audience? Oh, my dream is that they're all one world. You know, that's my dream. But I have to say, the problem is China produces the whole range. That's not the problem. The problem is, as an American, I can't purchase luxury goods that are actually luxury. If I'm buying a brand name, it's garbage. And then there's just so many people that drop ship. And so when you're like, I want to find a real artisan, you can't, because all those places has been filled up by drop shippers. So there's no place, like, where do you go for like actual vetted artisans that are good? I don't know. Maybe there's an answer. I'm not a shopper, so maybe there's a place that I don't know. So Etsy is full of crap now too, and it sucks. Temu has a Herman Miller copy for 130ish. I don't want it to be a cheap copy. I want it to be an actually good chair. The sad truth is you have to do research. The right sellers are going to be handed to you. That's why capitalism is not theoretically possible, because of the informational gap. The capitalism of the neoclassical academic school. Like, it's like, I don't even know how to find the people selling products that I want. It's so buried with bullshit. They're like, no, everybody is a perfect consumer making perfect utility choices. And it's like, no. We really need innovation. Get a refurbished steel case chair. Steel case is expensive too, isn't it? Don't blame yourself, Mike. Even Chinese people usually get the same Western brands or more high quality perspective too, because it used to be true until recent years. Most people just haven't caught up with the times yet. No, I want to be catching up with the times. I want to be catching up to the times because, ladies and gentlemen, China has officially broken a $1 trillion trade surplus on 5%. Now there is a Chinese, I want to show you guys this because I've wanted this car for over a year now and I'm so mad. Like, I want to be sponsored and I want this car and I will sell out for this car because the Chinese EV brands are fucking insane. Let's start off the stream. Hey, welcome in everybody. We're going to be talking about politics today. I don't really care about streamer awards. Is that lame? Like, is that bad for my viewership? Should I pretend to care and like bait people? Like, you guys should tell me. You guys should tell me. Because I really don't give a shit about streamer awards. And I gotta be honest, it feels so 2015. I said it. I said it. It feels very 2015. I'm sorry. Just like the way that people act. Be like, I'm doing an edgy joke, but it's a roast. It just doesn't hit for me anymore. It just doesn't hit for me. They're like, this is my only comment. And it's like, I have some more controversial takes, but I like a lot of the people that are doing it, so I'm not going to say them. I'm actually censoring myself for the good of drama. It's just, I just think I'm apolitical, guys. Here's my racist joke. Just doesn't fucking hit for me anymore, and it's embarrassing for everyone. So fuck the streamer award. I mean, like, I appreciate Cutie for let me just say this. I have a nuanced position on the streamer awards. My position is this: we need the streamer awards as an industry. We need efforts and products like that to get recognition for our industry. The problem is who they recognize actively undermines the entire project. And I think Cutie Cinderella should sue fucking people that trash the streamer awards and then watch it live. Personally, fuck these people at this point. We have the Ethan Klein they all supported Ethan Klein suing people for making transformative reaction content where you just sit there and watch a live event live. Nah. I also think that there's so much anti-solidarity that's baked in because a lot of what happens now, chat, is we have a system of sociopathic behavior that has now been inculcated into streaming, and I don't know how to fix it unless you guys help fix it, meaning the viewers, which is completely talentless hacks, do nothing but trash stuff and harass people, and make everything unenjoyable to be around. And it's just like, you guys got to stop watching these people, man. You got to get better at your content because they're just trash. John had some analysis about the state of the streamer award mirror the culture of the space in general. I think that is true in a lot of ways that I don't even want to get into, quite frankly. The problem is that when I try to discuss this, ultimately the conclusion is I'm right and everyone else is wrong, which is not a very good conclusion to have if you're trying to be persuasive. But my general take, and I mean this like from the bottom of my heart, is that everyone's annoying. No one's funny. And it's just like, well, the problem with streamer awards is what it's supposed to be an alternative to the mainstream space. Fuck you to the establishment of the elites, but it does everything to resemble the traditional structures and mimics the traditional awards at every aspect. I mean, I think that's kind of the problem, right? Is basically progressive people are cowed into accepting the status quo, and because there's money there, and you don't want to become isolated by shooting in every direction, and that's really the reality. And then the thing is, if you try to fight injustice, you get trashed by the mainstream, but then every single thing, every micro move you make is also nitpicked to the extreme, and stuff that wouldn't even get noticed or mentioned by another streamer because you're progressive. People will try to wage a civil war against you over. So the incentives are all the wrong way. They're all the wrong way. Because if you have an audience where you try to cultivate that's progressive and thoughtful, you just end up constantly getting salami slice cuts against you and your reputation. So that's the challenge of creating a progressive space, is because how progressive is a matter of nuance, and there's always going to be people that are more, quote, more progressive than you, and they are going to use whatever kind of like inclusive systems you've set up to leverage their point of view. It's not even about being progressive, it's about whether you're friends with the in-group people. Ding ding ding. The nepotism is insane. The nepotism networks are fucking insane. It is funny. It is funny to see like people that have, you know, like say 100 viewers, for example, get a lot of hype and a lot of coverage in places like TwitchCon or Streamer Awards, and you're like, ooh, I make a lol. I want to ruin Mike's reputation. He's not that good at art creators, and I'm only saying that because he skipped my sub notification. Cutie's stance is bigotry is bad, but I'm not going to let that ruin my relationship with the bigot. Manifests itself in how she operates her streamer awards. She should block pieces of shit for participation because there should be consequences for being a racist, a bigot, misogynist, etc. I hear what you're saying. That's open to interpretation. Who exactly is a bigot? I mean, I agree with you in general, right? But then the question of who is a bigot and how do we determine who a bigot is? Because there is a population of people that call me a bigot. You know what I mean? Like, so if your idea of who bigots are include Mike from PA, you're insane. You're actually a batshit crazy, insane person. But there are people that will stand 10 toes down with that, and those people are just fucking delusional. So when they make criticisms, like, I honest to God think that it's probably good that they're not listened to, because it's just, how do I put this without sounding, if all you have is commentary that is very, 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 very shallow, and you haven't actually read the works that you're trying to obliquely reference, it's very easy to just go by what's superficially apparent about a person, right? And then let the audience's prejudices and stereotypes about that type of person fill in the blanks. And then you could skip to the point where you call people a bigot. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is ridiculous. And that is why. And oftentimes you'll see it coming from white straight men. And it's like, I think they're trying to protect themselves against accusations. So they're trying to become the arbiter of woke. There's no, as far as I got, guys, can I also say, don't mention other streamers that have never said anything like that. Just because you saw somebody in chat saying some shit, that's crazy. I don't want to have to time everybody else out, but like, come on. A lot of the times, you know, listen, I stream in the morning. I kind of, you know, I think I was the first large political stream in the morning. And a lot of people saw how successful I got. And so they've tried to kind of copy that formula. And I'm not bitter about that. That's fine. Try to copy the formula. There's plenty of viewers to go around. Why is the politics side of Twitch totally ignored by the Stream Awards? The answer is because there is a far-right cabal of Nazis and fascists who are leading what amounts to bot farms to try to drive controversy. And it is absolutely disgusting that we don't have... the reality is politics tends to be siloed off from culture because it serves the interests of capital. That's the answer. Like, if the capitalists, they don't want to give money to people saying raise taxes on the capitalists. Like, that's literally it. I also want to say, like, I've been saying for a long time, and if you've been a long-time viewer of mine, you know I've been saying this. I think we need to have more people that are not white male gamers on Twitch. And I want to give an example of that puzzle, the puzzle creator. I don't know her. An older black woman who does puzzles is not traditional Twitch content. And so this is part of what I've been saying. I wish Twitch would go to like Facebook and go see who old ladies are watching on Facebook streams and bring them over to Twitch. All right, that's the end of my Streamer Awards rant. I don't give a fuck. I honestly don't. Casey Trot had to do an embarrassing apology. She can't even stream. What? All of her GoFundMe will go to Ethan, his lawyer. None of that's true. Casey Trot did a video that was so ham-fisted the entire internet thinks Ethan Klein is a piece of shit. His stream is falling off even harder. He got no boost from it. All of her GoFundMe money went to her lawyer. There's literally nothing in there. And that's it. All that happened is Ethan Klein enriched a lawyer, got a hostage video that made her a martyr, and his reputation is even more in the dirt. That's it. Roachy Roach. The difference between Denims and difference between Denims and Casey Trot is Denims doesn't have a whole family that she's supporting, so she's gonna take Ethan Klein to trial where he's going to lose horribly and have to pay, and it's going to be a massive. That's the thing that's gonna be hilarious. Ethan Klein is going to trial. Ethan Klein is going to trial, buddy. Ethan Klein is going to trial. You have to come on your main. You can't come on an alt that you made to troll. Ethan Klein thought he would be able to sue these ladies. They wouldn't be able to afford to go to trial. Oops. All right, let's keep going, chat. We have a Chinese EV review.
Hot takes in the tech world, and I see a lot of them in the comments section and in articles all the time, and one of the most common ones is, yo, have you seen these Chinese electric cars? If they ever came to the US, they would cook everything that we have here. They are too good, they have too much tech, and they are too cheap to not dominate everything. And so I figured I should get my hands on one and actually figure out if that's true or not. And yeah, you could say there's a little something to it.
Chat, if Marcus Shilley is doing these, you know they're cooked.
There are so many crazy things I've learned about this car while I've been testing it, but let's just start with the basics. This car here I've been driving for the last 2 weeks is called the Xiaomi SU7. Yeah, that Xiaomi. So the Xiaomi that makes basically everything in China: tablets, headphones, robot vacuums, printers, appliances, and smartphones. And they even refer to the trims of this car as the SU7, SU7 Pro, SU7 Max, and SU7 Ultra. So this here is the SU7 Max.
I want an SU7 Ultra. Come on, China. Just give me an SU7 Ultra. I need a new car this year. Come on. Come on, just sponsor me. Come on. Give me an SU7 Ultra. I'll sell at least like 50 of them. Come on.
And this retails for about 299,000 Chinese yuan, which actually converts to about $42,000 US, which is gonna be a lot more impressive in about 5 minutes. So base specs, this is a fully electric 4-door sedan, 101 kilowatt hour battery, dual motor, all-wheel drive, 673 horsepower, and 320 miles of range. Already, those are specs on paper on the level of like a Tesla Model 3 Performance, which today costs like $55,000. Now, looking around the outside of this car, it looks like a pretty reasonable car. I think a lot of people would agree. But that's the thing. This is Xiaomi we're talking about making this car. And they're not a car company, which means they don't have any previous designs that they have to pay homage to or any traditional lines and shapes that they have to keep around, which means a little bit less prestige, yes, but also a little bit more freedom. Because I see them taking stuff from all over the rest of the car industry in this car. Like these headlights, for example. That is very much a McLaren-looking headlight. And they have Lotus lines on the hood here. And then as you get back, even more. Kind of looks like a Porsche Taycan from the side profile, if I'm not crazy. It has these thin bezels like the Polestar, and then a thicker taillight across the back, which kind of looks maybe like a Lincoln or some others. And then there's a fully active wing on the back that kind of looks like a Mercedes AMG GT. All of these are more expensive cars from more premium brands, and so they kind of meld them all together into one car with this kind of unique purple color that honestly I think looks pretty good. And we're not even on the inside yet. So the inside here is where they really start to stack the wins. This is a nice car.
42,000.
Not just in like a
700 horsepower.
Nice with an asterisk type of way, like, oh, this is nice for a $45,000 car, or oh, this is nice for a car I've never heard of. No, this is a nice car. It's got this pretty clean design all around the interior. Again, bringing in inspiration and premium features from a bunch of different places. Like these are comfortable, heated and ventilated leather seats. This heated steering wheel looks and feels a lot like a Porsche steering wheel to me, with the shape and the simplicity and just a few buttons with stalks at the bottom. There's a big, bright, and automatically aligning HUD in front of me, right in front of the road at all times. And that's right above a small display behind the steering wheel.
I think HUDs are like something that should be on all cars. Anything that could keep people's eyes forward and on the road is a safety enhancer.
And then a 16-inch primary display in the center. And then there's storage everywhere. There's here in the middle between the front seats, where they've also cleverly stored a flashlight powered by the car's battery, kind of like Rivian. And believe it or not, a tasteful amount of real hardware controls here. There's a power on-off button right here. There's temperature controls up and down, fan speed up and down at my fingertips. You can also put the wing up or down at the back of the car. And there's a lift height because there is, of course, an adjustable air suspension. Up at the top, there's a pair of air-cooled 50-watt wireless chargers because, you know, if you got a
oh, that's so good.
Xiaomi car, you might as well have a Xiaomi phone with 50-watt wireless charging to match. So those go up there. There's also a huge tinted glass panoramic sunroof over my head. Very nice feature. The headliner is all Alcantara everywhere. And there are 25 speakers in this car that sound really good, and ambient lighting everywhere that pulses to the bass of your music in the colors of the album art of the song that's playing, because it's connected to the car and it just knows that type of thing. And that's not even mentioning the backseat experience of this car, which is also really nice. Those screens for the rear passengers are Xiaomi tablets, because of course they are. I haven't even driven it yet, and it's already feeling like a $60,000, $65,000 car. There are not one, but two really cool features I've never seen in any other car that are in this one. So number one is the software. The software is so good. This feels like a preview kind of like what Apple might have done if they'd made an Apple car. I say that because it's super smooth, just like a smartphone, but also it's a car made by someone who makes a phone. And so the car plugs right into the Xiaomi ecosystem in so many ways. There's a wireless charger, but also wireless screen mirroring. It connects to various other Xiaomi smart home accessories like security cameras. You can sign into them with the car with your account, so everything from text messages to map directions are all syncing from your phone. And hey, if all else fails, thankfully as a backup, this car also happens to have wireless Apple CarPlay, and it's nice. I think it is the biggest, nicest window of wireless CarPlay I have ever seen in a car. I think probably my favorite example of the software being incredible in this car is you see the speaker in the headrest behind me. When I'm driving and my phone is paired to the speakers in this car and I'm navigating, you know that part where like you're driving and the music's getting pretty good and right as the bass is about to drop, the navigation voice comes on and interrupts it? That never happens in this car because it separates out the voice from the navigation and puts it just in that speaker behind me while all of the rest of the music and the sound in the car.
You know, we're supposed to be the empire where it's like, oh, there's an evil empire, but you get the best treats. Ooh, the best treats. And it's like, my treats fucking suck. Have you seen a Tesla? They're garbage. Have you tried to, oh my God, chat. I made the biggest mistake of my life 2 years ago. I went and checked out Jeeps. I went to a Jeep dealership. Early on in my car research, I went to a Jeep dealership because I was looking at some of their like plug-in hybrids and stuff. Oh my God, was that a mistake? So I went, okay, listen to this, chat. So I get into the Jeep to do a test drive. And so we drive 3 miles down the street and the car just dies. And I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck? They had given me a car that was completely out of gas. And I was like, wait a minute, because it was a new vehicle that I wasn't accustomed to. So I just thought like, I didn't like glance. I didn't notice that the like gas, because it was an EV, a plug-in hybrid. So I was looking more at the like plug-in part of it, not the gas part of it. And they just gave me a bone dry, empty, out of gas. Out of charge and out of gas. Amazing. I have never run out of gas in my life. I've been driving since I was 16. I have never run out of gas because who the fuck runs out of gas? The only reason you would run out of gas is if you had literally negative in your checking account. So obviously, like, I've gotten poor, but I've never run out of gas. Okay, luckily. So I was just like, what the fuck is this? My Prius dashboard went out and I used to refill on Vibes. Ran out a few times. Sir, I don't think that's a drivable vehicle. All I'm trying to say is, I think they wanted some, and then when I heard the price of the trim, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And there was no one else at the dealership. And it was a major dealership. My wife leaves the car near empty all the time, hoping I have gas for my tractor. It's awful. It's a gamble when I drive her car. Legitimately, when you're in a relationship with someone, they get 2 flaws. They get 2 serious flaws that you just learn to accommodate and work around, because nobody's perfect. Everybody has flaws. You just need to learn how to accept some flaws. That's both. That is an insane flaw. That is a easily fixable, insane flaw. That counts for 2 strikes. What if, for example, one of you gets hurt and you need to rush to the emergency room and the car is fucking out of gas? Here's a rule of thumb, chat, for sane people that have the ability to pay for their own gas. When your car hits a quarter tank, the very next trip, you should fill up the tank. This is just common fucking sense. Nah, I fill up at the light. I mean, we all, sometimes that happens to the best of us. Sometimes that happens to the best of us, where, you know, you intend to do it, but as a general rule of thumb, you should be filling it at a quarter tank. Like, as soon as it hits quarter tank, you'd be like, ah, fuck, I should hit up my gas station. That way, you could find a good gas station that you like, and you incorporate that in. Driving on E is bad juju. Don't do that. And it's like, if you're in a marriage or like a long-term domestic relationship and you share your finances, like, not filling the gas tank is even more unhinged. It's like, it's the same fucking pool of money. Fill the fucking gas. What the fuck's wrong with you? Why do today what I could put off tomorrow morning when I'm rushing to work, Mike? Exactly. That's the other thing that does to you. Like, imagine that you're running late, because all of us get in those situations where we run late. That just happens, right? And you get in the car that it's out of gas and you can't, and then you're fucking late where you would have made it. Like, nah, dude, that's not okay. That's not okay. I'm actually furious that your partner does that to you. That's fucking annoying as fuck. I don't understand this as a Californian who is experiencing their first winter at the University of Michigan at grad school. Your gas pump uses fuel to cool itself, so if you run your tank low, even if you don't run out, you wear out the gas pump faster. Below a quarter tank, you might be damaging your gas pump. Yeah, that sounds about right. But I was late getting home, so I skipped getting gas on the way home. I mean, when you say late getting home, was there something that you had to do? Like, you were expected to be home for, you know, to pick up a child or something like that? Then that's acceptable. That's where the quarter tank rule is for. And so in those circumstances, you're not out of fucking gas and you can make it back on time. Fuel pump, not gas pump. Yes, that's what isn't that what I said? My mom would run low all the time, so much so her van got stolen and was found a couple blocks away. LOL. Okay, that's actually, that's the worst thing that ever happened to your mom, because it justified her incredibly antisocial behavior for the rest of her life. Like, legitimately. Like, coming from California, it's smarter to get gas in the morning, more cold, more dense, less vapor. I'm pretty sure that even if that's the case, which I think it is, I think the gas heats up and then it would like expand in your tank, thereby farting. There's some sort of like pressure release valves in those tanks. There's got to be something like that. Also, there has to be some sort of like temperature regulation of the pumps. And gasoline is stored underground, so that's like 53 degrees, right? So they're pulling from an underground tank, so maybe it doesn't sound like that's right to me. I don't know. That sounds like not correct. All right, let's keep going.
Stays exactly the same. So as a driver, I hear the voice saying turn left, turn right, but everything else, including the music for all the passengers, stays sick. That is my favorite software feature I've seen in a car in a while. So the software being awesome is the one thing, but the second awesome thing is the modules. Because this is a modular interior. Because hidden around this car are a bunch of various mounting points for modular accessories. There's one over here in the corner and another over here in the center, all the way around the back of this center display. And so on these mounting points, you can attach various accessories that Xiaomi makes.
Automatic mounting points. You don't have to do that stupid goopy bullshit or get some sort of custom mod. They have built-in mounting points. Do you understand how cooked we are? I want this car. I'm thinking about, like, what are the tariffs on this? Like, legitimately, this car is better even compared to the equivalents that are tariff-free. The only reason that Japan's economy was able to expand to the level it did is because the United States treated Japanese goods as the equivalent to American goods. And we're talking about finished products like cars. If they did that right now with China, the entire US manufacturing economy would be cooked. I saw somebody on TikTok, and it was the best piece of propaganda that China has ever put out. And I don't know if it was intentional propaganda or just normal people talking about regular shit. I now know what it feels like to be a Chinese, to be a Soviet citizen in 1989, where you would look at America, an American grocery store. I now know what it felt like. Like, I understand the fall of the Soviet Union now because I can look at what China has. It was this black couple. They lost their house in a California wildfire. Somebody find me this creator, because I saw it on my feed and I swiped past and I regret it. Somebody find me this creator. They're a California couple. It's a black family. They lost their house in a California wildfire. This is the website. I don't know if it's real or not, or this is the account premise. And they're going to China to design their whole home from scratch and buy all of the like materials from China, because it'll be a hell of a lot cheaper than like going to Home Depot or whatever the fuck. And they're getting like European, German style windows and all sorts of stuff that's like insanely nice, but like unfindable in the US unless you want to spend like 8 times as much. I would want one, but the main issue is that the tariffs, it's a lack of service infrastructure to support any repairs you might need for anything that's proprietary. That's the main downside, Progressive Canuck. You're absolutely right. I assume that if you live in like LA or something, there'll be some sort of support you can get.
Like this.
I work cargo insurance claims and I see the price of everything coming in. It radicalized me. The thing that's really insane to me is like major clothing retailers buy clothes by the ton. So you'll go in there and it'll be a sweater for $90 and literally they paid $1 for it. And it's like, oh, okay.
Extra speedometer and trip display, or this magnetic car mount in the corner of the car, or this super useful USB hub that gets full power and can pass it along through
Look, it has a built-in USB hub. What the fuck is this? Like, come on. This is like stuff that should exist and it just does.
Able to passengers in the back seat or wherever they want. There's also high-quality microphones that pair to the car for a karaoke experience, or even long-range walkie-talkies for some reason if you need to maybe shoot a video with the car and communicate with the camera car. What other car does this? I've never seen the ability to customize exactly how much hardware or how little hardware you have in the interior layout like Xiaomi does. I mean, they're not a car company, clearly, but they've come up with some really innovative things to make the car uniquely your own. You can make it maximalist. You can make it minimalist. You can do as much or as little as you want. And that'll, of course, fluctuate the price you pay, but hey, that's up to you. I think that's pretty sick. All of that is without even mentioning all the little stuff like the active noise cancellation in here, the quality of the speakers, the surround sound, all the other things that the software does really, really well. And I haven't even gotten to driving it yet. So this is obviously a standard issue 4-door electric car, right? But the superpower of electric cars is that they can have multiple personalities. That's what makes these interesting. So in its default mode, which is comfort mode, it's pretty nice, actually. It rides super soft, it's chill. The air suspension is actually pretty incredible. I feel like this is on the same level of absorbing all these bumps and all these potholes and the things on the road as the Lucids that I've driven. Like, this is really quite good. And it never gets too unsettled. The accelerator pedal, it's responsive enough. It's not like super twitchy and aggressive. It's obviously the comfort mode, so you feel like you have all the power you need, but it rolls it on nicely and eases off when you remove your foot from the pedal. And what a lot of other EVs don't have is this really high degree of customization over exactly how that feels. Like, there is a full-on power delivery slider. You can move it to be a fully rear-wheel drive vehicle all the way to a fully front-wheel drive vehicle. And then the lift-off regen is nice and secure and assuring. You never have to take the car out of this mode if you never wanted to. This is a very reasonable thing to expect from a 4-door electric car. But there's also a drive mode knob down here. If I just turn it 1 notch to the right, everything turns red. The graphics in front of me change. I get my estimated range and my speed and how much power I'm using. And then I rotate it again, and it's Sport Plus mode. And there's a G-force meter now. And now all of a sudden, the accelerator pedal is way more responsive and twitchy, and everything firms up. And the steering is definitely heavier. So this feels much more like a fun type of drive. And it's not quite on the maxed out level. Like, I know people want to compare this to Porsche Taycan. This is not Porsche Taycan levels of sporty, but it's like 1 notch below that, which is still really good. It's got all the EV party tricks, 0 to 60
in under 3 seconds, launch control, and even a little boost button where if you press the drive mode button, you get this crazy graphic on the screen, and then that's all of your power, which is sick. So obviously it does great in a straight line with 600 plus horsepower, but it kind of handles on the same level of Model 3 Performance or BMW i4. This is a really capable car. It's kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothes type of car where you see it on the road and it doesn't necessarily look like something that has Porsche 911 Turbo S horsepower, but it does. And so yeah, it just gives you this confidence of being able to place the car wherever you want on the road, and that is the superpower of electric cars. Plus, it's got these active bolsters. The seats are hugging me when I go around turns. So when I turn right, the left bolster kind of like hugs, like catches me a little bit. This is something those very expensive G-Wagons have done and popularized for a while now. It's a little weird, not gonna lie, but it just makes you think it's doing something. It's also become much more apparent as I'm driving this car how well built it really is. It does not feel anything like the $42,000 price tag might suggest. Like, obviously the materials are one thing, and you've got these leathers all around and the stitching and these different contrasted materials, but also just in general, like, it's quiet in here. I don't hear motor noise. I don't hear wind very much. I don't hear other cars or noises around me outside the car. Like, I can verify that there are noises out there that I'm not hearing. It's sick. And then there's the active noise cancellation on top of that. So it just feels like a really serene, calm experience just because it's so well built. And you might have also noticed the LiDAR box right above me on the top of this car here.
This car is superior to anything that probably costs twice as much in the US. It's just that simple. And in America, people don't buy cars anymore because everybody has to have a fucking steel box to protect you from all the other steel boxes.
Because the other button
is it built with slave labor? No, it's just built in a fully upgraded, modern industrial factory with extreme automation. It has the most advanced manufacturing technology that exists in the world being deployed to produce high quality products. Americans say, oh, is that slave labor? Because in America, half the people have bullshit jobs where they do nothing but scam and cost money. Because we don't make anything anymore.
Steering wheel is Xiaomi's full self-driving, which doesn't work on every road here in the US, but in China, you have Pilot Pro and Pilot Max, and those will take care of almost all of the driving on almost all of the roads the same way something like a Tesla Model 3 might here in the US. So I've turned it on this road. This is a smaller single-lane road and it's totally fine. And there's all sorts of things like obstacles that it has to avoid, and it handles that. It's never really done anything to give me pause or seem kind of weird, and it's not even designed for these roads or this market. So I imagine in China it's even better than this. I'm honestly trying to think of like a negative. Now that I've been living with this car and I've been driving it for weeks, I've driven and reviewed many other cars for the past couple years, and usually the downsides are so obvious. Like, oh, the tech is usually pretty bad, like the software is bad, but well, this is Xiaomi, like they make smartphones, they make all this tech already. The software is great. The self-driving works. The cameras are great. The displays are great. All the tech is there.
If you think about it, chat, a phone company and a car company under EV should be the same company. Because what do we use with phones? Batteries and processors. The only thing that you need with the car to make it a car is a enclosed space and motors, right? Like, and the motors are the simplest part of an EV. Wheels. Well, I mean, obviously the wheels. That's all basic shit. It is the batteries. It is the software. That is the part separates one EV from the next. So of course you should have a phone company making cars.
And then all the EV fundamentals.
David Ellison is attempting a hostile takeover of Warner Brothers with an extra $18 billion higher than the Netflix deal. Yo, they're actually fascists trying to end democracy. They're actually fascists trying to end democracy. That would be like 60 years of Warner Brothers profit. Huh? Self-driving cars are fucking stupid. I'm gonna be a centrist Marxist and say, I think that having better cruise control and better like safety features that prevent collisions are a good idea for 99% of people. I think like helping people, like when do people crash? People crash when they make dumb left turns, when they fall asleep in the car, or when they lane change like an idiot. all of those things, or they aren't paying attention, they rear end someone who stopped. All of those things can be significantly enhanced with safety features. All of those things can consistently be enhanced with safety features and safety technology. So I want to see that. That's my basic idea. The idea of just like sitting back and, you know, letting the car drive itself, that's a little bit different from what I'm talking about. Chris Kunstler is debating loaner box on Israel. Why the fuck would you give a time of day to loaner box? The guy is a goddamn Nazi. He defended the murder of children. Like, there's no reason to ever debate that guy. All you should do is play him defending the murder of children, and that's that. There's nothing more to say. There's only one kind of debate with a Nazi, and that's between you and your gunner's mate choosing the caliber. That is the debate that you have with Nazis. And that's the debate our country had with Nazis. It was like, should we be using the 155 millimeter, or should 76 millimeter on the Sherman tank? That is the debate that we have with Nazis. Okay.
Fundamentals are also still there. It has the 300 plus miles of range. It has the quick charging.
I personally, and I, just so everybody's clear, I'm not saying that we should go out and kill people or anything. I'm just saying that you don't need to debate these points with these people. They've discredited themselves. You have to learn to accept that some people are discredited. You just need to learn to accept that somebody like Loaderbox is discredited. And he's never going to change his mind. And anybody who likes him is a fucking evil piece of shit too. Like the moment he said, well, you know, a toddler being shot, well, maybe, blah, 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 and he starts doing all sorts of like mental gymnastics. You need to just go, oh, this guy justifies the murder of children in cold blood. Like this guy's an evil piece of shit. This is the same logic of Nazism. You don't need to do any more debate. And the thing is, the vast majority of people agree. See, the thing about Loanerbox and these people is they're so bad at politics that they thought that Israel was going to be popular with young people. They thought being anti-Palestinian, they're so out of touch and such a fucking bubble. They know so little about what makes about politics today. They thought supporting Israel would be good for their career. That's how dumb they are. That's how out of touch they are. Every single Democrat is going to have to account for their position on Israel in 2028. It's going to be one of the major differentiators between candidates. Is you're pro-Israel is going to be a huge talking point against people. Not only are they wrong, they might be part of the reasons why the progressive left wins in this country, because we could discredit people for being loaner boxes. God damn, that's embarrassing. Damn, what a bunch of hacks they are. And the other thing that's really funny is they don't even make money. Loaderbox isn't. Loaderbox, show me how much money you make from content creation, bro. Unless he's getting a special Israeli contract, he's not even making money. Like, he sold his soul and he would have made more money just getting a retail job and working 40 hours a week. Like, imagine destroying your own conscience and reputation and supporting a genocide and not even making money on it. God damn, that's embarrassing.
And it has the split personalities. It has the super chill, calm
Mike,
cruiser.
have you gone over the 2025 national security strategy the admin released? I have not looked at it yet, but I did see that it was released. I might cover it more tomorrow for the next couple days.
Mode, and the 600 horsepower brutal launch control, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, sporty mode. And then on top of all that, it's built
0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. I cannot get over these numbers, man.
Super well. Like, it has all the sound isolation and all of the hardware features and creature comforts and physical buttons and all the modules and all this, and it's like, this feels nothing like a $42,000 car, which I guess conveniently brings me back to the title of this video. So are we cooked? Not yet, clearly. This car is not available here in the US, but you can see how we could be soon.
The only reason we're not cooked is they're not allowed to sell here. That's it. Oh, the only reason they're not cooked is we're using government force. By the way, this is force. This is force. And all those neoliberals, I remember having debates with neoliberals against free trade, neoliberal globalism, and how it's led to race to the bottom on so many aspects. But now it's fixed itself because China has gotten so wealthy that it's no longer a race to the bottom with China. China is just superior now. China just has better infrastructure, better investment, better manufacturing skills, better technology. They're just better than us now. We couldn't handle trading them with, fair and free. And by the way, chat, that's when the tariffs come in. Now that the United States of America might lose its position as the world's largest economy and as the global hegemon, now suddenly we remember tariffs. When poor people and working class people's unions were getting obliterated and America was being hollowed out and almost all of the country is a shithole except for a few large metro areas that have gotten all the fake money, all the finance money, this country is hollowed the fuck out. Now suddenly we found out that tariffs exist again. But it might actually result in you being able to afford your life. Now suddenly tariffs are getting invented again.
Genuinely, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. This is a $42,000 car that feels like a $75,000 car if it were made here in the US. And that's the thing that's most impressive about the Xiaomi SU7. And that's just this one. So really, now that I've gotten to live with this and drive this here in the US among all the other cars I test, here's my take. It's not that there's any sort of crazy bleeding edge tech in this car that's impossible to replicate. Obviously, the software is really good and the modularity and some of the features are kind of sick and we haven't seen them before. But like if you took this car apart, you wouldn't find anything inside, any like bleeding edge battery tech or anything that's impossible to replicate.
By the way, chat, this is the height of cope. Execution is what makes somebody a champion. If you look at America in World War II, it wasn't because America had cutting edge technology that they won the war. It's because they executed well the most. The Sherman was not a great tank, but there were more of them. And they were able to replace losses. And they were able to deliver logistically weapons, material, supplies to the front. That's what made America the superpower. And China is, and so when you say, oh, there's nothing that's bleeding edge in this, it's just everything is perfect and executed flawlessly. Well, that is genius. That's what genius is.
This is a car made of normal car parts, but it's the putting them all together in one car that's so impressive. It's not often you see a car with great software, great features, great build quality, great versatility, great range, and a great drive, and all stacked together like pretty elite. There is basically no question in my mind that if a car like this was available in the US for $42,000, that it would crush, of course. The fact that it isn't is, of course, inherently political, and there's all the tariffs and import fees and all that. That's super variable, and we may never get a car like this available in the US for $42,000, but Europe will, allegedly, in 2020.
Keeping U.S. auto manufacturing alive is extremely important. A UAW job is one of the last ways for someone to make a middle-class living. Bro, that went the way of the dodo in the 70s. The only reason we have a car industry is because the United States of America has complicated tax rules that basically incentivize people to have light trucks. That's why that is why we have an auto industry, because no one else has these dumb fucking tax rules. And if you think this is cope, Ford CEO loves daily driving in his electric sedan from a Chinese competitor. Ford CEO Jim Farley admitted he has been driving a Xiaomi SU7 for 6 months and said he doesn't want to give it up. This is the reality. I'm sorry, chat, but if I could buy, and by the way, that was nearly the top trim is $42,000. That's nearly the top trim. That's not the most inexpensive version of that. Most inexpensive version of that's like $30-some thousand. And it's basically the equivalent of like a BMW 7 Series or a Model X. Like this is, or excuse me, Model S, not Model X. X is the dumb one with the dumb SUV. Does China have strong unions? I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that. I think basically workers' rights are vastly improving through a centralized labor system that's being imposed from the party. And one of the things that's very interesting is people talk about Chinese labor conditions as like a reason why China is able to do this. What, you think labor conditions are good in Indonesia and Bangladesh? You think labor conditions are really good in Nigeria and Haiti? Like, what are you talking about?
27. And I would say that the competition over there is at least in a little bit of trouble when that happens. The idea that the competition is getting stronger and that cars like this actually exist some other places in the world is really exciting and heightens the ceiling for all EVs. It raises the ceiling up for all cars to get better and more impressive. and more complete like this one. So lesson learned. It's going to be fascinating to keep an eye on this stuff in the future. If you want a more raw, like daily living with this vehicle type of video, check out the autofocus channel where I shot a video on the Xiaomi phone of the Xiaomi car. Thanks for watching. So hey, it is of course the holiday season.
So ladies and gentlemen, the answer is we are completely and totally cooked. And that's not just Mark. It is the Ford CEO. The Xiaomi SU7 is a new model in China. The manufacturer Xiaomi is better known as a smartphone and consumer electronics company but announced plans to build an electric vehicle in 2021. Full-size sedan, and despite carrying a relatively low price of $30,000, air suspension, active dampers, active aero. It's been met with such popular demand in China that it reportedly sold out its entire 2024 production run on the first day. Xiaomi is said to have sold 100,000 units before the first model was even delivered. Xiaomi is trying to breach the camera market. I fucking hate the way TikTok starts muted.
New clip-on camera concept might.
And then it's
what
like,
if your phone could swap lenses for Pro DSLR? Xiaomi's new clip-on camera concept might just change smartphone photography forever. It's like MagSafe, but for cameras or phones. Clip it on and boom, a huge micro 4/3 sensor, f to f11 aperture, and a 35mm focal length, all on your smartphone. I got a hands-on with Xiaomi's new concept, smooth with no lag. A focus feels buttery centimeters. It doesn't have a battery. It pulls power via the pogo pins around the back of the customized chin, and the image quality on first impression out 15 ultras 1 inch, so you really benefit from that extra sense. Now I know what you're thinking. You already do this with the QX tiny 1/2.3-inch sensor, quite a clunky NFC and Wi-Fi pairing, and Xiaomi's version is way. Imagine if all of Xiaomi's 16 series phones had these pogo pins, letting you swap in full-on micro 4/3 sensors and lenses that are really incredible quality. That would, or would it? What do you think? Is this the future of smartphone cameras? Let me know if.
I honestly think that would be huge. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like if you could get yourself, a lot of people use their phones for that kind of like dual use. I think that would be huge. See, this is how I know you're American. You're like, Mike, I don't care about that car. Look at this super SUV. We watched this already. All right. Okay, so Marjorie Taylor Greene went on 60 Minutes and she's saying, man, there's an awful lot of Nazis in the MAGA world, huh? I keep getting death threats. Paramount's initial press statement did include a mention of SOV wealth funds, but the SEC filing said that other outside financing partners include funds from the Saudis, Qataris, Emirates, as well as Jared Kushner's affinity partners. They have agreed to forego any governance rights. Guys, there is a fascist world alliance that's trying to take control of our media, and they're spending oil money to do it. Paramount launches hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers. Discovery says bid is backstopped by the Ellison family and Redbird Capital, in addition to $54 billion in debt, fully committed by Bank of America, Citi, and Apollo. Remember when I told you guys the other day, and I was like, wow, I'm glad that the Ellisons were not able to buy Warner Brothers. And people were like, oh, who cares, Mike? It doesn't matter. Apparently it does matter. Apparently it does matter because for some reason, Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Israel's biggest supporters are all aligned to try to buy American media.
And I need to walk through it with someone. It's this Delaware corporate filing that's making me rethink everything about this Warner Brothers Discovery Netflix. And I'll let you be the judge, but I feel like by the end of this, you're either going to think that I'm onto something. Okay,
I'm sorry, Chad. I can't raw dog this video. Unfortunately, I love our citizen journalists as well, but I try to keep the level of content at a little bit higher level when I bring it to you. It's not that it's dry, it's that I don't know if this person has any credibility at all, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, like, wasn't Netflix already owned by a right-wing weirdo? There's a difference between a right-wing weirdo and a fascist Nazi who's allied with Israel to make it illegal to be pro-Palestine. If you feel like laughing at the Navy, who doesn't like to laugh at the Navy? Dre is actually a good researcher, not sure who showed that video. She worked on finding where the alligator Alcatraz detainees were. She is an anti-authoritism, anti-China. Okay, well then, I don't care. Sorry, I don't promote cold warriors here. So if you're a cold warrior, you get fucked. Eat my ass. I'm never going to watch you. In fact, I actually think you suck. I'm going, but actually, you know what would be good? American imperialism. We should fight a war in Taiwan. Those people could eat my ass. Guys, America's evil, except we are actually good in our genocide in Korea was really kuai or whatever the fuck. I'm good. Hold on. Let's stress of Houthi combat was key factor in series of costly Navy mishaps. That counts, folks. All right, chat. I wanted to show you this.
And the 637 News.
Zoran made a video about resisting ICE. I wanted to show you guys this because I did see a weird tweet about this video, and it made me realize that a lot of you are literal children.
And the 637 News this morning, Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani is speaking directly to immigrants after an attempted ICE raid in Manhattan. In a new video he released on Sunday, he outlines New Yorkers' rights during encounters with federal agents, stressing ICE cannot enter homes, schools, private workplaces without a warrant signed by a judge.
As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights.
Mamdani.
Okay, let me actually get the video.
Last weekend, ICE attempted to raid Canal Street and detain our immigrant neighbors. As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. If you encounter ICE, these are the things that every New Yorker should know. First, ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or a private area of your workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. That looks like this. If ICE does not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, you have the right to say, I do not consent to entry, and the right to keep your door closed. Sometimes ICE will show you paperwork that looks like this and tell you that they have the right to arrest you. That is false. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you, but you have the right to remain silent. If you're being detained, you may always ask, am I free to go, repeatedly until they answer you. You are legally allowed to film ICE as long as you do not interfere with an arrest. It is important to remain calm during any interaction with ICE or law enforcement. Do not impede their investigation, resist arrest, or run. One last thing.
Mamdani is coping. He will be a talking point for Republicans in the midterms when he fails to implement his policies. Which policy can he not implement? Guy who just created his account 6 minutes ago. You have one chance to tell me what policy he can't implement. 5, 3, 2, 1. You took too long.
New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protest, and when I'm mayor, we will protect that right. New York will always welcome immigrants, and I will fight each and every day to protect, support, and celebrate our immigrant brothers and sisters.
By the way, chat, okay, so in the video, he said something that I want to point out.
Ask, am I free to go?
Oh, fuck me.
The logic of this court's decision and seal the law, and we...
Oh, fuck Christ.
Important to remain calm during any interaction with ICE or law enforcement. Do not impede their investigation, resist arrest, or run. One last thing. New Yorkers have a constitutional...
Okay, so here he says, don't impede with their investigation, don't resist arrest or run. Okay, so why is he saying that? I saw somebody try to be like, but he's telling people not to resist ICE. He's telling people not to resist ICE. Resisting arrest means physically fighting the ICE agents. That's what that means. Why is he saying don't do that? Because if he tells you to do that, he will go to prison. Also, you will die. They will use that as justification for shooting you. Now, if you want to be like, I am a revolutionary radical and I'm going to set up a fucking anti-ICE battalion to try to do gun battles in the streets, that's against the law. I want to let you know that. If you try to fight ICE, that's against the law. Now, I'm not saying that the law is just. I'm saying that's what the law is. So if you're going to LARP on Twitter, that's crazy because I don't see it. I don't see the anti-ICE battalions doing the resistance. So if you're on Twitter going like, no, I can't believe Mamdani said don't resist arrest. Can you imagine what would happen if he told people to resist arrest and people started getting killed in New York? Are you insane? I think the thing about politics in America in 2025 is that there's a lot of children who play a lot of video games. and they think of themselves as being behind a screen playing a video game, except the video game is telling people to, it's like they're pushing the throw a Molotov cocktail button, right? But it's through somebody else that's on the other side of a screen. If you legitimately believe that we should be resisting the government, that's not something you tell other people that they need to be doing through a tweet. That's something that you should be organized to do, or else you are living a living contradiction. And the problem with resistance is this is a legal Marxist space. What do I mean by that? I cannot tell you to commit crimes here. I want you to understand that this is a legal Marxist space. I cannot tell you to commit crimes here. I will never tell you to commit crimes here, because if I do, this space goes away completely. So if you're like, oh man, I can't believe the mayor of New York is not calling for armed civil conflict before he's sworn in, you're dumb. You're dumb as fuck. If you believe other people should go out there and commit revolutionary violence, the question I have to ask is, where is your violence? Like, it doesn't make sense. If you believe that revolutionary violence is an utter necessity right now, I mean, you know, we have news. We can see that it's not happening. What are your thoughts on people criticizing Zoran and Bernie for supporting Starbucks workers unit pickets but not showing up to ICE protests?
How many more New Yorkers will you detain? How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? When we asked Tom Homan, all he had to answer for that cruelty was a smirk. Because there is no answer for taking a man from his pregnant wife, who is due to deliver their newborn child in a month, from their Columbia University apartment, a day after that same man, Mahmoud Khalil, wrote to Columbia University and said he feared for his life.
I think one of the things you have to understand about certain types of online leftists is they're stupid. Like, they legitimately are bad faith. They are bad faith. It really is. It's really just that simple. It's like somebody does something, and then they do something else on a different place at a different time, right? Because they're doing more than one thing at a time. And they say, well, why aren't you doing this thing? He just did that thing. There's something called he gets credit for doing that thing, and then he moves on to the next thing, which is important as well. We need to organize workers. We need to support their picket lines. There isn't, you have to do more than one thing. And yes, some things are more pressing than others. And if you want to hyper fixate on one issue and you want to make that one issue your thing, that's fine by me. You have that freedom. When you're talking about somebody like Bernie Sanders or Zoran Mamdani, it is wrong of them to only focus on one thing. They have to spread out because that's their job. And going like, oh man, I can't believe Zoran's not confronting ICE. What the fuck are you talking about? He confronted Tom Homan. He confronted Tom Homan in person. What are you talking about? But Mike, that was 3 months ago. That was 6 months ago. It's like, are you fucking stupid? I thought you just moved the goalpost from, no, he's not doing it, but he's not doing it right now. Yes, he's doing the picket line for Starbucks workers. That's what he's doing right now. Is that bad? This is one of those things that's not good vibes for me. But I'm doing this because it's necessary for you guys to be better. I'd rather have 5,000 people that are cool than 10,000 people that are dumb as fucking useless. Like, literally. And we have to weed out wrecker radlibs. Like, we just have to. It is what it is. So here is Zoran talking about how to resist ICE. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a huge departure from Eric Adams, who in exchange for a pardon had New York City government and the NYPD working as closely as they can with the Trump administration and immigration detention. This will protect millions of immigrants. Now, is it a defeat of ICE? No, the answer is we're not going to defeat this federal policy until we get a new president. I want you to understand that. Or we seize at least one house of Congress with people that are interested in stopping Trump on this. And I know, like, I'm not trying to do the thing where I'm like, you guys don't know civics, because those people oftentimes don't know civics. But you do need to know a little bit about how these systems function if you're going to resist them and interfere with them. It's like, I'll give you an example. If you were trying to do a sabotage operation, you need to understand how the machine functions if you're going to sabotage it. And the more you understand the machine, the easier the sabotage is. I think, you know, I hate to do a pop culture analogy, but I think it's apt. The American imperialism is in many ways like a Death Star. And if you do a frontal assault of the laser cannon, you're going to get blazered. You need to understand where the weak points are so that you can frustrate the machine and destroy the machine. And the weak point is not Zohran Mamdani. I just so you understand, hyperfixating on Zohran Mamdani or Bernie Sanders or AOC is not the weak point of the machine. The weak point of the machine is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. The weak point of the machine is Hillary Clinton. We need to actually take out the people that are necessary for the bipartisan consensus to continue to exist. We have to disrupt that. It doesn't mean we don't criticize Bernie and AOC. I do it constantly. But Jesus Christ, please, for the love of God. And by the way, if you find yourself frequently disagreeing with me on this, you should just leave. I can't help you. And I mean that. If you're like, but Mike, I want to hyperfixate on AOC, you should just leave. All right, let's keep going. Summer Lee chat is starting to make the rounds.
When you say like the Democratic Party has to understand this, and like, we have some people in the IMs who are IM saying like, I love what the Congresswoman is saying, but will the DNC listen? Is there like, do you perceive the Democratic Party to be that there is this sort of like overarching entity that has a philosophy, or is it like a series of individuals that you need to have more individuals like yourself than the other individuals, and then that wins out?
Okay, this is the we hear. Listen, since November, we've been hearing a lot about the DNC, and by we I mean all of us, right? All center left people. The DNC, the DCCC. What is it? I think it's less, big entity, more individuals, but the individuals who run entities matters, right? So I will say, the Democratic Party is decentralized. It is far more decentralized. The Democratic Party of Pennsylvania is not the Democratic Party of South Carolina. It's not the Democratic Party of, Iowa. That's just objectively true. The DNC, as far as I don't know the DNC. Nobody from the DNC tapped me and said, Summer, you should run for Congress, or Summer, you shouldn't run for Congress, right? Where good people exist and their communities are organized, you have the power to shape what not just the Democratic or the Republican parties look like, but the government itself. So I don't want people to think of like the DNC, the RNC as like boogeymen that make us feel like we don't have more power than we do. Because it is decentralized, you may have to overcome systemic barriers. We had to do that in my district in Allegheny County, right? We had to do that. I spent last year was the first time I was ever endorsed by the Allegheny County Democratic. And I won anyways, right? We were already winning, which means that people were already on our side. It was just a systemic barrier that we had to notice. We had to address, and we had to move around it and then fix it and change it.
And by the way, Chad, this is something that I've said a lot of times. This is why people like Bad and Panada are not really people you should be listening to when it comes to American politics, because they literally do not understand the Democratic Party doesn't mean anything. Yes, there are institutions. Yes, they will try to rat fuck you. Yes, there's a lot of rubes who believe Democrats are good people. And that is the biggest barrier. The biggest barrier you have is there's a lot of good-hearted people that for some reason think the Democratic Party is good people. It's not. It is a institution of mostly opportunists and scumbags, okay? But if you can get around those people who don't have that much power in reality and don't really have that much... Do you know who your local Democratic Party chair is of your county? Raise your hand. Mike, I know the Democratic Party chair of my county. Hey, Mike, I know who the Democratic Party leader of my state is. If there's any chat and that will know these people, it's this chat. But you get my point. Do you know who your state representative is? Do you know who your state senator is? Do you know who your congressperson is? These people do not, they have a lot less pull than they make out. Do you know who your city councilor is? Do you know who your mayor is? Do you know who your district attorney is? At some point, I think it would be really helpful to discuss Gramsci's war of position versus war of maneuver, as it really clarifies this point you're making a lot. You're right. Actually, that is such a good point.
We have since put more people now know about the party. So the Democratic Committee is the party. They know about it now. More people are so you can change those things. The question is again, in a democracy, a true democracy, power is inherently with the people. And I think that fundamentally, the concern or the challenge for Americans is that, we have had a real hands-off approach to democracy because we have trusted that our government will fundamentally, it might get on our nerves. It might not feed us. it might not invest in our schools in the way it should be, but it won't become, it won't become a fascist government, right? The Nazis won't take over, right? Mussolini will not be elected, right? So we've had a hands-off approach. It's like, I elect you, you go, you figure it out. But right now, we are actually in a point where we can't be hands-off. We have to be real in it. If you really want to change the course of things, whether it be the DNC or the president himself, the direction of the country itself, then we have to wield the power that's still vested in us. And that means your labor. That means your money. That means organizing. That means sending people who you want. That means taking on the system head on. We have the power to do all those things. So I would say it's decentralized. And that does not absolve the people in leadership of leading and of leading in a way that's responsive to people. I think both of those things are happening.
Lastly, Representative Lee, I know you have to run in a bit, but I am curious just about your reflections on this last election cycle, because two of the members of the squad and company, two of our favorites, Representative Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, were really just taken out by a cannon of AIPAC money. And I remember early on during that time period, you were a third name that was discussed about how a target of AIPAC, but you withstood it. And of course, Ilhan Omar also received a lot of Israel money spending against her. She withstood it too. But how do you reflect on how you were able to overcome that in ways? And even when you contrast it with what your colleagues experienced, it must have been an incredibly kind of difficult hurdle.
Yeah, it wasn't my first rodeo, right? I'm actually one of the first.
Okay, so I found a good summary of what we're talking about. So basically, to understand what we're talking about, you have to understand Gramsci. And Gramsci is an Italian Marxist who was describing how the world has changed under advanced capitalism, and strategies that existed earlier on in the epoch are no longer effective for a variety of reasons. And like the revolutions like happened in China or Russia, those were wars of maneuver. They were societies that were in such dynamic flux. The revolution was able to be fought across the entire country, and there was grand sweeping societal change because there wasn't a fixed hegemonic society in Russia. It was a teetering feudal and capitalist and socialist and agrarian mix, similar to China, where there was all sorts of contradictions. There hadn't been a hegemonic capitalist society established, which is why those large wars of maneuver were successful. Whereas in our advanced capitalist societies, we need to fight a war of position where we established counter-hegemonic institutions culturally, politically, and economically, right? The economic struggle of the proletariat begins historically and basically as a struggle for better living and working conditions under capitalism. The struggle for better wages, shorter working hours, better conditions, better benefits. This struggle leads to the organization of the working class into trade unions, but as of yet is not sufficient to challenge the hegemonic system of the bourgeoisie. However, at the advanced stage of class struggle, the economic struggle must be waged in conjunction with an intense political struggle itself, involving more than just a simple confrontation between antagonistic classes, to include a complex relation of forces existing at three levels. Relations of social forces linked to the structure, dependent to the degree of the development of the material forces of production. Relation of political forces, that is to say, the degree of consciousness and organization between different social groups. And the relation of military forces, which, as is always, according to Gramsci, the decisive moment. So basically what you're saying is, as much as I want a revolution, in order for a revolution to occur, there must be these institutions of the left that have been growing and succeeding and gaining concessions and politically propagandizing and inculcating a certain type of class conscious struggle. We're not going to get this shit from magic. You're not going to, and yes, you may be more advanced in your personal political development, but that is not the development of society. And I think this is why so many people are unserious, is because they confuse their own development with historical development. And you need to realize that you are part of a larger whole that needs to go through these steps in order to achieve what we're talking about. I see Zohran Mamdani as a development of our war of position. I recognize that he is not where I want to end up. He is necessary lever to pry open the door Pierce Morgan is interviewing Nick Fuentes. Oh my God.
Races that AIPAC as an actual PAC, right? Not DMFI, but like AIPAC's PAC, United Democracy Project. My cycle was the first cycle that they actually got in personally in elections. So not just bundling, but also through their IE spend. So I was one of the first races that they went in. That's where they practiced all of their tactics, not to ever talk about Israel or Palestine, but to instead talk about whether we're good enough Dems, whether we support, Joe Biden well enough, things like that. Their tactics were egregious, and who they targeted was not incidental. It was not an accident. Right. The districts, the people that they targeted. So I was the only person who outlasted them that first time. And the second time, we organized. We worked. I worked hard. At the end of the day, when people say, why did you survive and others? I mean, part of it is that we work, but also part of it is that I'm grateful. I'm blessed. I'm lucky. People support me. We work hard in our district. And I'd say that not to say that or to undermine me and my team, the work that we do, but it is to say that there are candidates who are brilliant, who are equally brilliant, who should be, they are representative of their constituents, of their districts, of their neighborhoods. They've been on the streets, they've been in the trenches. There's nothing that says that they shouldn't have been in Congress as much as I should have been. But sometimes that money hits different. And I want to say it wasn't just AIPAC against Corey and Jamal. Because I don't want to let any money in politics off the hook. My issue ain't just with AIPAC. My issue is with all of it. So crypto PACs actually spent more than any industry in elections last year. They were the #1 spender. And yes, they also went in many of the places that AIPAC went to. So it was a 1-2 whammy for Corey and Jamal and for others who never made it in the first place. So that's why it's so important that it's like, listen, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't unleash big money on your progressive enemies or your progressive, those of us who, you're like, we want to protect the institution, so we don't want too many progressives here. You can't be comfortable with unleashing that on our districts, unleashing that into our politics, and think that it won't be a wildfire, because it has been a wildfire. Since that type of money has been into our politics, you have seen an exponential rise in outside spending, right, just objectively, right? Every cycle. So Corey's and Jamal's was the most expensive House primary in history. Corey's was the second most expensive House primary in history. And it will only get worse if we don't stop it. And that means that it isn't just a weapon against progressives. It ain't a weapon against MAGA. It's a weapon against our democracy. Because and
you can see, and that's also happening, I believe, with the Paramount deal. Paramount trying to buy Warner Brothers. This is a weapon against our democracy, as flawed and as choked by inefficiencies and veto points. It still, at the end of the day, goes back to a majority of people voting for a thing. That is being fundamentally and thoroughly straitjacketed. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it so that if I say Free Palestine, I can't get a YouTube channel. Or if I do, it gets 5 views because nobody gets recommended it on their feed.
Interests of one interest group should not outweigh the interests of the people in their districts, the people in our country. And that's fundamentally what's happening right now. So to outlast it, yeah, we have to raise money. Absolutely. We have to knock on the door. Certainly. We have to show up to work, and we have to, we have to deliver. We have to do all the things that so many other people who had been in office for hundreds of years just don't have to do. We have to get up earlier. We have to stay ready so we don't got to get ready when you're black or brown or progressive. And we recognize that. And we will do that.
I got one last question. I know you got to go, but one last question in that regard. And I think your point is very well taken too about that money, because that money's being raised and there's people invested in raising that money and then expending it. And it's sort of like almost like when, rates were at zero. Still have wealthy people who want to go make their money work, and so they start creating bubbles. And if there's not enough Jamal Bowmans and Cori Bushes for them to deploy that money on, they're going to start deploying it on other people as well. So it's not going to just end there. But as a member of the squad, we don't hear about the squad so much as we did maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But as a member, like, internally, do you guys have any theories of change? I mean, obviously, like you're relying on organizing in your district. That's how you get elected, and it's about people power in those districts. But within the context of the inside game, do you have theories of change that you talk about? Like, is there a strategy beyond slowly primarying and maybe very blue areas and getting more. What is the theory of change that you guys employ within the context of the sort of the inside game?
Well, I will say that for me personally, right, my theory of change is not, it cannot and it will not exist if it is only reliant on, 6 of us talking to each other or 6 of us being it. It is contingent on you all, on the people, on our movement to be a part of.
I'm on lunch break now on my first day at a new job at a hospital. Wish me luck. Congratulations, Pittsburgh Wept. Congratulations on the new job. Based. Oh, this is so bad. This is in my title. We're going to talk about it, but the FBI to compile a list of American extremists and establish a bounty fund to reward tipsters.
Because like at the end of the day, we can't hasten the process of more progressives, more, justice, pro-peace, pro-human rights.
I think the thing that's like really apparent to me and has been apparent to me for a long time, which is that either we begin to act in a more radical fashion in our politics, or else we will be overtaken by the right wing through active suppression. And I think a lot of people need to understand how critical it is to get people like Zohran Mamdani elected. How critical it is that we actually have as many left-wingers in power as possible.
Rights candidates making it to Congress. We have political capital.
Radical, you mean voting, calling your rep, and holding a sign. I think one of the things that is very funny about ultra leftists is that the state is force. If I'm advocating for the seizure of state power, I'm advocating for more force than you ever thought possible. That's what you don't seem to understand. You seem to think that grabbing a bullhorn and yelling at an ICE official is force. That's not force. That's not the force that I'm thinking of. And I think there is a large population of people that don't understand the level of organization in society, and they have such a parochial view, and they have a lack of a strategic understanding of the world, or even really the logistics that makes their life possible. Like, I have a protein shake. Like this product is an individually consumable protein shake, right? Immense logistics that takes to get to me. I feel like most left-wingers online do not have a sense of the scale and scope of that level of logistics. When you talk about seizing state power, you are seizing power over every human being on the planet. That's what we've allowed to fall into the hands of basically Asmongold. The government you're seeing today is the Fuentes Asmongold government. And you're going like, oh, it's so terrible. Why would you want to have power? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, how strong is the left compared to 2020 during the Bernie primary? Are we dumber or stronger? The answer is we're stronger, which means we have more dumb people. Because the left is so much stronger than it used to be, there's now space for grifters like Bad and Panada to exist. Like, the left is big enough now that there's a large enough population of people that have been disillusioned by Bernie Sanders losing 2 elections that they now are sitting there going, I will never be hurt again. It's impossible to win. I will never be hurt. That's right. I want to stand over here. And that is a sign of our strength. The problem is that it's a leak in the boat. And so I'm trying to plug the leak in the boat. It is a tumor in the funnel. It is people that could have been politically useful, could have been politically active, could have done actual real praxis, being siphoned off. Like, I want to give you an example of what I'm talking about. Hassan was the biggest donor of the Amazon labor union in the country, individual donor. Adam Panada says you should inform your boss when your company is trying to form a union. Do you understand that he's a tumor? Do you understand that he's a cancer on our space? And like, that is why I have to stop the leak. I have to excise the tumor. Why would he do that? Because, see, if you're in America, it means you are rich. The Starbucks workers, they're rich, and they're enjoying the bounty of imperial super profits. And so Americans need to suffer. So the best way to get them to suffer is to make sure that their working conditions and salaries are as low as possible. That is the Bad and Panada method. And I need to, the reason why I'm standing against it is because I don't want you guys to think it's okay. It's one thing to all the other, long form videos, the work against Israel, you know, our alliance of convenience over Ethan Klein, that's now over. He spends all his time as CIA compatible leftism, and it needs to be dealt with. And I need you guys not to be pushing that shit. It's garbage. He argues as in to make it worse so that people revolt. No, that would be too coherent. He just wants the first world to suffer. That's it. He just wants Americans to suffer. I don't know why he doesn't want Australians to suffer. They're just as complicit in Israel's genocide. But for some reason, it's only America. It's not Europe. It's not Australia, even though they're all doing the same exact shit. It's so odd. And why is it America? Because Americans get more clicks. That's it. He's a grifter. If he was consistent and he was calling for the head of Australians and shit, that would be funny at least.
But it ain't endless. So the answer is, yeah, we absolutely do need more people because we have a Congress of 435 people, and it is a Congress by majority. So by the mathing, we got to make the math. That's
I've always interpreted these statements as provocations. Do you think he genuinely thinks that? Yes. Because he has no constructive project. See, if he had a constructive project, then I would be like, okay, well, let's evaluate the constructive project. But like Destiny, he has no constructive project, and he's just grifting around the Hassan orbit, but from the left. Destiny grifts Hassan from the right. He's grifting you to the left. Now, I don't mean he's lefter than Hassan. I mean, he is putting on the form of leftism in order to grift. And it's important that you understand that. It's important that you know that.
But part of that doing that is not just organizing in our district, but it is how do we use our districts to create a model of what's possible? And how do we then invest in other areas so that they can do that same thing? There are places around this country, and they aren't just deep blue places, because my district is not a deep blue district, right? My district is not a majority black or majority.
Hassan and Destiny are cucks. Say with anyone who sits on Twitch crying about something that's not in their control. MAO. That's you though. Who's a bigger cuck? Who's the biggest cuck? A person who understands how all this is in our control and is organizing people to seize their own power, which has happened many times throughout the world history, you illiterate? Or a person who has been trained by the status quo to be a compliant dog that barks on command and hopes to get a treat, which is you. The other thing is, even under the terms that you are describing, I'm winning. I'm better than you. Even under purely capitalist frameworks, I'm better than you, like in every measurable way. So if we're trying to evaluate each other from like all sorts of things, like my life is better than your life in every measurable way. I also am doing better under capitalism than you. And what's even funnier than all of that is I'm advocating for a system that will be better for you if it's implemented. Your life will improve. You're a cuck, soy, libtard, get a load of yourself. What's cuck? What, huh? Cuck has a word. Cuck has a meaning. A cuck is a person who is in a relationship who has somebody else whose partner cheats on them and they do nothing about it. That's not me. That's not you. You have never had a relationship, so you're not even on the level of cuck. You're a fucking virgin child. Cuck would be an upgrade for you. Hi, VO. Yeah, look. VO has made me homemade waffles and a fried egg. Wow. Thanks, VO. Appreciate you. Wow. Fresh waffles. Thank you, Queen. I didn't get the utensils. Thank you so much. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, cuck has a definition. You are not even on the level of a cuck. You're not even on the level of a cuck. My life is better than you in every measurable way. Like, there is no way that my life is not. I'm better educated than you. I make more money. I'm not saying this to flex on you. I'm saying this so you get a wake-up call. Your life sucks because of capitalism, dummy. I am one of the people that is fighting hardest to make your life suck. You shouldn't be in debt for going to school or getting a trade skill. You should be able to get health care. Your case, you could really use some therapy. I'm sure you're embarrassed to be surrounded by filth and not showering and all this other shit. Yeah, look at you act like a dog to your woman. Huh? I can't believe, well, I guess that's true. I am a dog that's being fed and watered. That is true. That's right. Like, also your woman.
Cope and seethe.
Thank you, Mia. Actually embarrassing. Actually embarrassing. You should be able to get that mental health care. You should get that therapy. Somebody should check in on you and they should care about you. It's embarrassing. I don't listen to R words like you. Yeah, man, it's the guy telling you that all women are whores and that everything else is immigrants' fault. That's the guy that cares about you. The guy that tells you to delight in other people's suffering. That's the guy who you should be listening to. That's the guy who's going to make your life better. And by the way, nihilism, the expression that nothing matters and that all that matters is your own personal pleasure, that leads to suicide. That philosophy that is being communicated to you by Asmongold will lead you to self-annihilate one day, because life gets harder. It doesn't get easier. As you get older, it gets harder. You get more responsibilities. All your support, your parents, your support network starts to die out. You have to become the support network. More responsibilities, more. You start to stand as the pillar of your own family, because the generations that brought you into this world, they pass away, they go away, they pass on. It gets harder. If you're a nihilist, you're not going to make it. If you don't believe in others, if you're not building an organization and a community, you're not going to make it, man. And people like Asmongold tell you not to care, not to be too much of a stickler, but nobody makes it out alive. Well, there's two ways that you're on this ride, you're on this roller coaster, whether you like it or not. You can make a positive impact, and you could build a more beautiful world, and you could experience love and peace and solidarity through the struggle, and you can leave a better world, a more beautiful world than when you found it. Or you can die alone, a meaningless life that did nothing but spread misery and be forgotten. Those are your choices. If you choose the fucking nihilism path, if you choose to make the world worse, you're not gonna make it. Nihilists don't make it. They don't die happy in bed, surrounded by loved ones, okay? They die alone in a stinking, rotting apartment, friendless and alone. Usually quite frankly, where their life should start be taking on the most meaning, it has the least. And what I like about Asmongold is that he is a fly trap for a certain type of low IQ sadist, and he will drive them to become less and less relevant. And the thing is, the chatter does it for free while the people who he worships at least get a paycheck. I mean, yes, that is true. If you are if you're a 35-year-old adult, it doesn't mean your life is over. It means but you should be taking yourself more seriously. At the end of the day, I have to ask you, my life is so much better than yours, and yet you thought you could come in here and say that it's not? Like it would mean something to me. You think you're the first right-wing dipshit? You're the first right-wing idiot that's been lied to that I've ever encountered? Do you think, by the way, do you think you guys can ever affect me other than, like, what are you doing? You don't even pick a good target. Pick a good target. Most right-wing men kind of get that. Then they don't usually go after left-wing men unless they have a huge crew. They mostly target women, but they'll try to dogpile people when they have like 8 other people to hide behind. They will do that. That is true. Damn, Mike, chill. I might die alone in a stinking apartment, and I have family and relationships. LOL. Just the state of the world. We're gonna fix it. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're gonna fix it. That's what we're here for. We're gonna improve the society. We're gonna give that guy the mental health care he needs. The state of the world is in flux.
Person of color district, right? It is a majority white, majority suburban district in Western Pennsylvania, which means that our policies, our vision for the country, it works. It works in other places. And we have to make the case. But that does mean that we have to be out there. That does mean that we have to encourage investments into the apparatuses that help us. And I don't just mean electorally, but it does have to be electorally. I'm somebody who believes simultaneously that we have to use every single tool at our disposals. Yeah, we do need people in government, because the reality is that you can't mutual aid the government. You can't out mutual aid, or you can't out organize systemic discrimination. We have to be able to end it here or mitigate it here so that the people on the outside can be comfortable, can be healthy, can be safe, right? It can be prosperous. But we also have to do those things. So I'm a hand-to-hand person. I believe that right now, the thing that we need most are empowered electorates. So my theory of change is that we need people right now from the outside. No major change in our country has come from Congress by itself. It just hasn't, right? The Civil Rights Act, the abolition of slavery, voting rights, the end of the anti-war and anti-apartheid movements all came from people moving the Congress, from people moving power, wielding power. And I believe in that to this day, which is why I believe in the power of young people entering the time-honored tradition of student activism. I believe in that deeply. I believe in the power of organized labor. I think that that's why, the president has attacked the two things that undergird democracy, education and organized labor, right? Mm-hmm. I believe in a disciplined, use of your money or withholding of your money. I believe in those things. And at the same time, yeah, we have to build more power on the inside. We do have to be in ranking positions and chairmanships. Yeah, that's all inside game that helps. It helps the outside, not vice versa, right? Or kind of vice versa, but it is important, but it isn't the end all be all. But it has to happen. We do need to be able to get more people. We need to create an opt.
So basically, and by the way, chat, the reason why I don't have, like, listen, I want to do it at the local level, and now is the time. Now is the time. There's no better time than right now. We also need to be preparing ourselves for the next 3 years because it's going to be a long slog. And we have to aim high, and we have to pick people that are actually on our side, not people that are convenient or you think they might win or whatever other bullshit. If I see a positive Andy Bashir post in this fucking chat, I'll swear to God I'll lose it.
In for the inside, and we've been able to do that. I'll leave on this, right? Take AIPAC, for instance, in Money in Politics. When we first introduced the Ceasefire Now resolution, I think it was about 7, 9 of us, all people of color, right? All uber progressives. Maybe we got some other people who started calling for like conditional, we want a bilateral, ceasefire. I'm like, they all are, right? But in that year, we were never able to move. This year, we have now for the first time, we had 50-something people on the Block the Bombs Act. Of those 50-something people, a number of them are people who have actually received AIPAC dollars. Some of them have gone on the AIPAC trip, right? They have now publicly said that they will not accept AIPAC dollars. We are moving hearts and soul. We are moving people. So I just want to mention that because of the noise outside, because of the organizing, because of the righteous indignation, the moral stance, people in Congress are getting the message. And because we are there, we're able to have the bills, we're able to have the letters, we're able to have the organizing things that they can now attach themselves to. So we're giving them an opportunity to come to the right side of history, because our objective at the end of the day is to end a genocide. Our objective at the end of the day is to end racialized capitalism. And all of those things means we need more people in both spaces.
Representative of Pennsylvania's 12th Congressional District, Summer Lee, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show.
Summer League, ladies and gentlemen, what a queen. What a fucking queen. All right, people are like, Mike.
Not.
Okay, by the way, chat, this is being botted. I right off the bat, I want you to know this is being botted. How do I know? 88,000. 88 is a Nazi dog whistle. 2, I mean, it is just George Floyd. Top chat at George Floyd. 88 is so that's that. But I will also say this: Nick Fuentes is being promoted harder than Hassan has ever been promoted. Can you imagine? I mean, it's
not even comparable. And I would say this to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. In Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens.
He just makes shit up. He just makes shit up whole cloth. He just makes shit up completely. He's such a dumb fuck, dude. Like, just an absolute moron. Again, because he has no compunction of lying and making shit up. All right, you guys ready? Chicago data portal. Chicago carjackings by year. This year has been 455. It's down 25% from last year. 455 in a year. Now that's a lot of carjackings. That's bad. That's a violent carjacking. I don't want that. I don't think there should be violent carjackings. But he said 10,000 a day.
Comparable. And I would say this to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. In Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time.
By the way, I just want you to know, chat, the very first thing he said, I immediately disproved right away. So what's the point? What's the point of debating this guy? What's the point of debating this guy? Oh, he's gonna say edgy humor. Haha, is this so funny? He said the SSRI stare. He's so humorous, guys. He said jalopy of black people. He traded off of some bigoted trope. Oh my God, he's so funny. What is there? There's nothing there. He's fucking devoid of anything that's substantive. Again, there's only one debate when you're dealing with Nazis, chat. There's only one debate.
How many mass shootings committed by autistic SSRI white people? I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But you're really just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
I'm really. The reason why America has a lot of shootings is because we have a lot of cheaply available guns, and we have high inequality. Like, that's it. It's not very complicated. You let people have guns cheaply, you have high inequality, people are going to take those guns and they're going to use them. That's not complicated. So if you want to stop violence, you have to stop both sides of it, which is make guns less available, one, and two, have less inequality and have a society that everybody feels invested and included in.
No, I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much on black crime, for example, involving guns.
That's why these Nazis don't debate people like me. Like, they don't debate people like me. They debate people like Piers Morgan, who are largely racist conservatives.
Bout off, though, you cut corners. This is what they say. You push unfounded claims. You said on GB News, for example, falsely, and I quote, more than 50% of social housing in London is now occupied by people who are not British. This is not acceptable. Well, forget not being acceptable. It's not true.
I think it's about that. I think it's about 47, 48.
It's not, actually. The percentage of people who are not British in London social housing is about 14%. No. 85% of people are British citizens.
No, so my view would be, in terms of housing, we're in the middle of a housing crisis. I think we should have a principle of national preference in our housing market.
We do. 85% of people in London are British who are in social housing. No, you falsely said that more than 50% are not British. That's false.
No, across the country, more generally.
Across the country, it's 90% according to the Ministry of Housing.
When we were allocating social housing, we also used to take into account things like commitment to the community, looking after property, etc. We don't really do that anymore.
That's a fair point. That's not what you said, though. I just want to go with what you said, Matt, with respect. More than 50% of social housing in London is now occupied by people who are not British. That is not true.
I'd need to look at the statistics.
I just make shit up. I just bold-faced make it up. Then it gets corrected, and then what? They say, well, I don't agree with your correction. There you go. That's the debate with the Nazi in a nutshell. They don't have good faith. And so, personally, what I would like to see is electronic probes attached to the Nazi. So whenever they spout a provable lie, they get shocked. Because, like, there's no other way. You can't debate a Nazi. Again, this all goes back to the Sartre quote. It's not complicated. Very easy. Once you understand it, it's really, really, really easy. Never believe that anti-Semites are completely unaware of the absurdity of their replies. They know that their remarks are frivolous, open to challenge, but they are amusing themselves. This is Nick Fuentes in a nutshell. This is Nick Fuentes in a nutshell. He's amusing himself because you take it seriously. For their adversary is obliged to use words responsibly since he believes in words. The anti-Semites have the right to play. They even like to play with discourse by giving ridiculous reasons. They discredit the seriousness of their interlocutors. They delight in acting in bad faith since they seek not to persuade by sound argument, but to intimidate and disconcert. If you press them too closely, they will abruptly fall silent, loftily indicating by some phrase that the time for argument is past. And I agree. The time for argument is past. I do agree. The time for argument, Sartre quote. I agree. You should, if you see Nick Fuentes, you should not engage in a debate, rather a cordial intercourse where you exchange your ideas. This is why fascists and reform are disgusted by the notion of re-education camps versus mass killings and genocide. They feel being forced to acknowledge the world as it exists is worse than death. Well, because they're not, again, they don't even, it's not about you are doing a thing they're not doing. You're doing a thing they're not doing. You're caring about the world as it is. You are talking about the world as it is. You're trying to understand the world. They're not trying to do that. They're playing a social dominance game. They think there's enough slack in the world that they can profit by plunder. They don't need to build. They don't need to do things. They don't need to understand how the world really works. Just not cordial intercourse like the way Destiny did. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm trying not to get banned. God, it's too late. The Nazis have actually taken over the right. We warned you. Hassan and I warned you. Hassan and I warned you. We said we need a strong left that actually addresses problems. You can't just be like Trump bad and have a society that's fucking broken. Let's just fuck it. Let's just watch. I mean, at this point, I'm not even platforming anymore. It's not even me anymore. It's not even me anymore. Like, it's not even me anymore. I can't. I would never get this. Can you imagine me getting a one-on-one interview with Piers Morgan? Can you imagine me getting a one-on-one? Like Hassan doesn't even get this.
An NPR fan, a Daily Wire subscriber, or an avid consumer of all things Tucker Carlson. For several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of Nick Fuentes. And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say.
By the way, chat, did they describe Zohran Mamdani that way? Zohran Mamdani fucking crushed it with young men in New York. Did that happen? Did that happen? I think we should skip this garbage. No. Nick would never step into a room with me or Hassan. You're right. You're absolutely right. And he's smart.
What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a grave indictment of an insidious immorality. For others, he's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter. He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech or a walking, talking manifestation of where the lines should be drawn. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality and whether anyone should actually talk to him at all.
If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
They have opted to not do so when it comes to Nazis like Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes takes this guy apart brick by brick. It's a full takedown.
My concern is that people who are a bit more moderate are deeply alarmed by Nick Fuentes.
I was very happy to see that, like, Nick Fuentes really passed that test with flying colors.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
That's the war. Can you get the beef prices down? Not crazy things that Nick Fuentes or these other loons say on social media.
Well, it looks like all the screaming about Nick Fuentes on the internet is finally dying down a little bit.
So now we had on this guy, this Fuentes guy, and never challenged him.
You should have Nick Fuentes on your show and you could ask him questions about that.
The truth is, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend all this time talking about Nick Fuentes, but not actually to Nick Fuentes. People who say you shouldn't give him a platform overlook the very obvious fact that he already has a platform of his own, which is often bigger than most of the people complaining. And he uses it to speak unchallenged to his many followers. It's on that basis that I've invited him to appear live and uncensored on my platform. And Nick Fuentes joins me now. Nick Fuentes, welcome to Uncensored.
Hi, great to be with you.
I don't know you. I don't think we've ever met. You can correct me if that's wrong. I know about you. I know that increasingly people are talking about you in a more mainstream environment than you may be used to. So for those of you who know nothing about Nick Fuentes, I want this to be an opportunity to get to the real person. I don't know who that person is, but I do want to use this opportunity to get there. I've seen you talk as we prepared for this in exchanges with people and on your show, saying you fear it's going to be very hostile, it's going to be an ambush, all those kind of things. I don't intend it to be overtly hostile. I don't intend...
By the way, chat, the reason why this is being boosted is because Capital wants it boosted. I want you to understand this. The reason why this is happening is because Capital is recognizing, oh, okay, well, the moderates are not holding. It's not working. Capitalism is going to be coming under a direct challenge from the left. We have got to get ourselves our own populist, authentic representative of whatever it takes to protect capital. If there's one thing Nick Fuentes wants to protect, it's capital.
Ambush you. I intend it to be an examination of what you said on the record, an examination of what you believe or what you say you believe, and an examination of what your rising popularity says about the state of the conservative movement in America. So those are my goals from this interview. What are your goals? Why are you doing it?
I thought it'd be interesting. And, you know, you've talked a lot about me on your show over the years, and this is the first time you actually extended the invitation. I think it might be the second, actually. I think we talked about doing it during A24 a few years ago, but you've talked a lot about me with the panel, and now you've extended the invitation to talk to me. And I think it'd be interesting for me to maybe clarify some positions and maybe get to know you a little better as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
There is a belief that you have two personas. There's one that you roll out now for podcasts and for shows like mine, where you come across as reasonable. And then there's your show on where you often come across as having, you know, a very unreasonable view on things. This is what Coleman Hughes said about you.
Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily on Rumble.
So first of all, what is your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would say that Coleman Hughes is a propagandist. He works for the Free Press, which is run by Barry Weiss. So I think you have to consider the source. And Barry Weiss is a pro-Israel partisan. Free Press is just bought out by CBS for $150 million by Larry Ellison, or his son David Ellison. And so I think that's coming from a particular point of view. We can't pretend like that's coming from a vacuum or from some fixed position. That's coming from a propaganda outlet that's in favor of Israel. That's first. But second, I would say he is right about the two personas. And I think that everybody understands this on some level. On my show, I make jokes and I use rhetoric and I'm hyperbolic because for a long time, I had an audience that was small on these like dissident platforms. I was on D Live for many years. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And so I had a small following, and we had sort of like an in-group sense of humor and memes and things like that. And you talk about it one way on a freewheeling live stream when I'm by myself and I'm ranting, and we make jokes and we play devil's advocate. We play with different positions. But then when you sit down in an interview like this one and people ask me a good faith question, what do you actually believe? Well, then I clarify and I say, well, here I'm not joking. Here I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being rhetorical. I'll tell you precisely what I believe. As far as this idea that I'm going to get power and then turn into Hitler, that just sounds totally insane to me. I'll be honest. It just sounds insane.
Do you have aspirations for political power?
Not really. I think that if I wanted to run for office, I wouldn't say a lot of the things that I say. I don't know that a lot of people would vote for me. I tend to offend everybody, even a lot of people that like me. So no, I'm a truth teller. I like to tell the truth. I like to do my live stream.
Who is Nick Fuentes? Tell me about your upbringing. I know you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Tell me about your early years.
Or early how? Like my childhood or a little bit later?
Yeah, your childhood, yeah.
Well, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in LaGrange Park, as you say.
I mean, I will say this. It is so interesting how much humanization effort is going into Nick Fuentes and how Piers Morgan is like bending over backwards to give him a puff interview.
My parents are ethnics. My father's half Mexican, half Irish. My mother's Italian. And they both came from a pretty rough upbringing themselves. They both were raised by single mothers, not because of divorce, but because both of their fathers had died. They endured a lot of dysfunction. And I think that's one of the reasons they came together and they related to each other and they wanted to create a normal upbringing for their children. They wanted to have a normal family life. And so they moved out to LaGrange Park away from the city. And they raised me and my sister and really put us first. I think that's a big reason why I tend to have a lot of these family values or Christian values. My mother quit her job and stayed at home to raise us. And so I have a very close relationship with my parents, with my sister. We're a very tight family. And we grew up in a pretty...
What's so interesting about people like Nick Fuentes is this entire like worldview that he's espousing is one that could only exist under a certain political economy where workers have enough power that they can claim more of their surplus value as wages, and therefore be able to afford things like a home and a stay-at-home spouse, and all of that requires a class-conscious politic where workers have demanded and achieved certain concessions. This family values blather, that is ice cream. You can't have family values if you can't afford to feed yourself and clothe yourself and house yourself. You don't have a stay-at-home wife if you can't afford to feed her and clothe her and house her. It is based on productivity and where it goes. And right now in our society, because of people like Nick Fuentes and his allies, less and less and less goes to workers, and more goes to finance, to Wall Street, to the capitalists. How much wealth does Jeff Bezos, do Ellison, do Elon Musk need?
Idyllic town. And maybe we can sort of get into a conversation about politics from this. I loved my upbringing. My mom stayed at home. My dad was working. We're in a mostly white suburb in Chicago. I was maybe half Catholic, half Protestant. It was a baseball town. I played baseball for many years. In Chicago, we love our hot dogs. We have our baseball parade and get a hot dog. And so I love where I came from. I love the city. It's a working class city. I love the people here. They're very good, humble, down to earth, decent people. And I guess I had my political, not to jump ahead, but this is a big part of where my political awakening came from. I sort of left this bubble, if you could call it that. When I went to college in 2016, I went to Boston University, and I read a lot of things online, and I realized the country does not look like LaGrange Park. It doesn't look like Western Springs or Hinsdale or Elmhurst. It looks very different. The country's undergoing a radical transformation because of immigration. And so I saw that.
I mean, it's almost too comical. It's almost too comical how dumb that is. It's just so comical. The Catholics, they are mostly white Catholics from Latin America. That's the immigration that they're crying about. Mostly white Catholics from Latin America, maybe a little bit of admixture from Mesoamerican or black, but for the most part, the immigration is mostly white Catholics from Latin America. I mean, it's just blather. It's just babble. It's incoherent stupidity. By the way, we used to have mostly white Catholics from Ireland, Italy. I mean, you're a fucking quarter Mexican yourself, dumb fuck. It's just blather. It's stupid on its face. It's laughably stupid. Boston is an immigrant town. The Italians, the Irish Catholics, that's the entire point. You're fucking stupid. And it used to be, America was not founded by Catholics, chat. America was overwhelmingly a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant country, right? But then there was a lot of Catholics and Germans that came in. Bavarians came in. Oh my God, the Germans are here. The reality is that everything he's saying is just nonsensical dumb shittery. America has always been wave migration, the country. It is the free real estate, the country. It's handouts and immigrants. That's America. That's what made it a powerhouse. And if you're like, no, Mike, those were settlers. They were hard scrabble settlers. We had agricultural agents that would go around and make sure, and by the government, trade these dumb fucks how to farm, would give them seed money, would give them subsidies. You just don't know what you're fucking talking about. This is the country of immigrants and handouts. It always has been.
I said, this is not really a desirable change. I don't like the south side of Chicago or the west side or LA or certain parts of Boston as much as I like where I came from. And I guess that's what made me an American nationalist. I said, I want to preserve my home and the things that are familiar to me and the things I like about my home, what makes it American.
And that's really the root of all conservative and fascist politics in a nutshell, is the fear of the other, right? What he's describing, chat, is what Thomas Hobbes would describe as diffidence. Basically, when you come into a situation and you're not aware of the risk that you're at, the threat that you're at, you come into a place, you don't speak the language, then maybe people are conspiring against you. You come into a situation, you don't understand the cultural mores, you don't understand the way you're supposed to act, you don't understand how you could offend others, and so you get paralyzed by fear. These people aren't speaking my language. What if they're conspiring against me? These people eat food that I'm not accustomed to. It disgusts me. This is just, I was raised as an incel in my mom's suburban house, and I got scared from the scary smells. And these people have a different language than me. I'm so scared. Oh, God, help me. Oh, help me. And the reality is, you're just a pussy. That's it. You're just a pussy. Your entire political worldview is, I grew up swaddled, and now I'm scared of the El Pastor tacos. Please, Mommy, can you feed me mac and cheese again? That's it. Oh, I said it again. Oh, whoops. You're just a wuss. You're just a coward. Frightened by your own shadow. And now he's dressing up his fears in a suit. That's all that his politics are. It is, I'm scared. And then rationalizing back from that. Pathetic. Pathetic. They were speaking Spanish.
America. So that's a little bit about my background. I don't know where you want to go with that, but that's kind of where I came from.
My first obvious question.
I mean, can we just say that suburbs need to be destroyed? Can we just say that we should level the suburbs? Can we just put it aside? Like, the suburbs need to be heavily limited, because it creates this, I'm so alone, and then you just start getting scared of your own shadow because you don't encounter people enough. You don't encounter enough strangers in your daily life, and so your risk assessment is off. The paranoia, the hysteria, the loneliness, the suburbs are a blight.
Were your parents immigrants to the United States, or were their parents, or were their grandparents? In other words, at some stage, I presume there were immigrants in your family who came to the US. Is that correct?
There were. I believe my mother was 4th generation and my father was 3rd generation. So their ancestors came here on my mom's side in the 1860s, I believe, the first wave of Italian immigration. My father's ancestors, I think they came around at the turn of the century in 1900.
So you mean when we had open borders? You mean when we had open borders? Is that what you mean? When we had open borders? Is that what you mean?
So your view of immigration, and we'll get to the specifics about your views on immigration.
Your view of immigration would mean that you would not exist. Is that right? If we implemented your policies, your ancestors would not have made it here, and you would not exist. Is that right? Other than just your own personal preference for the way things are right now, mostly out of fear, do you have any coherent rationale for your viewpoint? Because I can tell you, Italy wasn't very nice in 1860, because it wasn't unified and there was a bunch of warring states. Kind of a shithole.
Are they not affected at all by the fact that if it wasn't for immigration, you wouldn't exist as an American?
You wouldn't exist, period.
Well, I would certainly exist, but like you said, maybe not as an American.
What are you talking about? He's actually just stupid. He's actually just stupid. If your parents, ancestors did not immigrate to the United States, you would not exist. You are a very particular sperm that hit a very particular egg. That's who you are. There is no you without immigration, dummy. You exist because 2 particular people had sex. And they exist because 4 particular people had sex in 2 separate couples. And so on and so forth. If there is any disruption to that, you do not exist. Is he like Hindu? Does he think there's some he has some world soul that's going from body to body, being reincarnated on his path to nirvana? What the fuck are you talking about?
Certainly that's influenced in some measure. But I think that the kind of immigration that we had for a long time in the country, it's different than the immigration that we have now. And let's just say for openers.
What? I think one of the worst things about talking with people in general is that I read the books that I was assigned going in school, and I remember them. And I would say that the number of people that have done that is on orders of magnitude less than 1% of the people. And so everyone's just bullshitting because nobody read the homework. And everybody just acts confident and bullshits each other. And because nobody did the homework, they all are imposters. So they're all just yeah. They all nod their heads because they don't want to be found out. So they just say shit. And it's fucking stupid. The type of immigration America had was you come here, you live here for 2 years, you're a citizen. That's it. And you intend to remain. That was it. Show up here, say you want to be an American, live here 2 years, citizenship granted. That was the immigration system his parents came to America in.
It's different immigrants. They're coming from a different place with a different culture, a different religion. It's not the
Catholicism is a different religion? Mexican culture is that different from American? Are you sure about that?
same as it was. So first, you have a qualitative difference. My ancestors, for the most part, I have 3 European grandparents from Ireland and Italy, 1 from Mexico.
Guys, they're from Ireland. Guys, they're from Italy. Those are really different than Mexico. My ancestors, Nick, would have looked at your ancestors and they would have said, scum, get the fuck out of here. Actually, in point of fact, my ancestors were not like that. My ancestors have always been based. There was a right-wing group of people at that time who would have said that about you. We call them, funnily enough, Nick, I think it would also describe you very well. And they made the exact same argument as you do. They had what was called the America Party, or the Native American Party. Supporters of the Know Nothing movement believed an alleged Romanist conspiracy to subvert civil and religious liberty in the U.S. was being hatched by Catholics. Therefore, they sought to politically organize native-born Protestants in defense of their traditional religious and political values. The Know Nothing movement is remembered for this theme because Protestants feared that Catholic priests and bishops would control a large block of voters. The Know Nothing supplemented their xenophobic views with populist appeals. At the state level, the party was in some cases progressive in its stances on issues of labor rights and the need for government spending. The Know Nothing movement briefly emerged as a major political party in the form of the American Party. The collapse of the Whig Party after the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act left an opening for an emergence of a new major political party in opposition to the Democratic Party. Like, this is literally, he's just doing this, except he's saying, I'm white Catholic. Those are brown Catholics. I mean, it's just laughably fucking stupid. He's a fucking moron. Like, do we have to pretend like this isn't moronic? Do we have to pretend this isn't stupid?
They came from Europe. They came from a society where there's a common ancestry, there's a common religion,
There's no common ancestry between an Irish guy and a Greek guy. What are you talking? Unless you're going back to fucking Africa. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? A Moroccan is more similar to an Italian than an Irish person. What are you talking about? And by the way, Irish and Italian, those are papists, you fucking dummy.
The people that have come in since 65, since Hart-Celler, they're coming from China, India, the Northern Triangle, Mexico, Venezuela. And so first, they're just different people. Secondly,
are you really saying there's a, first of all, China? He's like, guys, no, China's terrible. All the Chinese Americans are bad. Like, what? What are you talking about? Indians is a tiny percentage of American immigrants. Tiny. Mexicans, as I discussed, are literally just Catholics, and they're mostly white. So what are you even on about? They speak Spanish, guys. And instead of make burger, they make taco.
It's a quantitative difference. There's way more, and it's an unceasing...
There's not way more. What are you talking about? Bro, Ellis Island brought in more people. Like, during the open borders, they brought in more people, absolute people, which means it's even bigger as a relative size. God, he's so stupid. Everything he says is dumb and wrong. Every single point.
Always increasing wave. For the first 3 or 4 waves of immigration, you would have a major influx of immigrants and then it would stop. And then you'd have another wave and then it would stop. This one, it just keeps going up for 35 years and it's too many. So that's really where I would draw the distinction between maybe where I originate from. I would even just simply call that immigration. What this is an invasion. It's a completely different policy.
There are more Irish Americans than there are Irish people at this point. Like, what more can you even say? Like, what more can you even say? What the fuck are you talking about? He's just dumber than dirt. What could he even say? What could he even say?
But you mentioned, all right, but you mentioned Mexico in that list, and your father is half Mexican. So
yeah,
I mean, by your criteria, part of the invasion would include your father, presumably, and his immediate descendants who came from Mexico.
Not really true, because when my father's ancestors came here, it was a small fraction of the total immigrants that came from Mexico. I don't believe that we should have zero immigrants forever, or even zero immigrants from non-white countries.
See, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the essence of what fascism is. Fascism is, it expands and contracts exactly whatever it needs for the political interests of the fascist. There's no logic here. There's no thought here. It's can he fool enough idiots to go along with his dumbass shit? That's it. If you like Nick Fuentes, you are a fucking dummy, because he's dumb. And I think that for people like me, I see someone like Nick Fuentes and I listen to him for like 5 minutes and I'm like, this guy is a fucking moron. Everything he says is a lie and he's stupid. And I kind of dismiss him because of that. But the reality is that it's not about that. We don't have a politics like that. It's a blind spot for me. I've been thinking a lot about this, chat. The reality is we live in a politics of parasocial relationships. The people that watch Nick Fuentes don't have a future and they don't have any friends. Nick Fuentes is giving them something to believe in, even if it's incoherent. It's about him. So he needs to make special rules for himself that make no fucking sense. Well, we like Nick, so it's okay. And that's really what it is. They're asking for you to live in a world of pure arbitrariness. And you know what a society is that's purely arbitrary? That's called that's called a tribal society. That's a warlord society where there are no fixed rules. It's just the whims of the guys who have military power. You want to see how that looks? Go look at China in the early 20th century. You know what doesn't run very well in that kind of society? Logistics, food deliveries, healthcare, education.
But you have to draw the distinction. My father's father, he was here in the 40s and 50s. It was his parents, or I believe either his parents or grandparents, that came here even earlier.
So what Nick is saying is, because my family wasn't swept up in Operation WB, if you know what I'm talking about, he's here. So that means it's not an invasion. My family slipped through the cracks. So that means that it's legit.
Up until 1965, 90% of the immigrants were coming from Europe. I have no problem with that. If we have 10% of them coming from Mexico or Latin America, maybe that's reasonable, but that's not what it is now. Now you've got 10 million illegals in 4 years.
Guys, that's because we didn't have the technology. We also had an immigration system prior to 1965 that allowed people to live in Mexico and work in the US. And because we ended those programs for agricultural or itinerant workers to come across the border, and we hardened the border in this racialized way, now we have people that come over the border and stay because that's economically better. They can't live in Mexico and work in the US as easily, so they just come across the border and stay. So ironically, the immigration policies that he is arguing for are in fact what's going to make this system even worse.
Years under Joe Biden, and you got millions more legal immigrants from China, India, Venezuela, El Salvador, and it's so many with no break for assimilation, and they're all from non-white countries. It's transforming what America is. And again,
Latin America is not non-white. I just want to say this, and you would think Nick would know this, but Latin doesn't mean non-white. It just means Latin. That's not non-white. Also, what is a white country? I legitimately don't know. Is Russian white? Is Ukraine white? Is Poland white? Is Greek white? Is Morocco white? What the fuck is white? I literally do not know. If that sounds ridiculous to you, if you're like one of these right wingers, you're like, oh, you don't know what white is? I know it when I see it. You understand how bullshit that is? You understand how bullshit that is? That's just made up. You're just drawing arbitrary distinctions that are not based on anything. So therefore, they're not applicable.
That's the distinction. That's what makes it unacceptable.
I always believe everybody is a product of their environment. Right? I've interviewed thousands of people. Maybe 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people from all different walks of life. But the one common theme I would say, everyone's a product of their environment. And I was reading some stuff about you in the last few days. There was an episode of your podcast.
Wow, that's the most left-wing thing Piers Morgan has ever said.
About your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African American. We would be deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant, no Applebee's, no Red Lobster, that is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. It said, before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you?
So basically, oh no, he grew up in a racist household and he's being racist. So he's just conforming to his parents on top of everything. He's not even doing a rebellion. Oh my God, he's such a fucking wimp. Oh my Lord in heaven. We have this closeted half Mexican kid whose parents were racist. Oh my God, dude. This is honestly, Nick Fuentes, the American fascist, is so fucking funny, dude. Some closeted gay guy who's a half Mexican. It's almost too good to be true. Like if I were writing a book, I feel like if you wrote a Nick Fuentes character into it, it would be too fucking, people wouldn't buy it. They wouldn't buy it.
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
It's your anecdote, you fucking dumb piece of shit. God, he's such a pearl clutching bitch too. Holy hell. I mean it like the dog, chat.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will. And I'll
I'm not trying to ambush you. As I said at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
Nick, to be clear,
I think
I'm not
understands.
ambushing you. I'm literally reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you.
Switzerland is plagued with racism? Of course it is.
Whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as, they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude...
This dude didn't even get to go to Red Lobster because his parents were too racist. Also, that's not, I mean, maybe I'm old, but I didn't think of Applebee's and Red Lobster as black people food. Like what? How white do you have to be to think Red Lobster is black people food? Like what are you talking about? Like how few black people do you have to know where you would say that? If anything, I think of that as white trash food. That's casual dining. That's Americana. I think they call that food American food. Like there's nothing more American than Olive Garden, Red Lobster, and Applebee's. Those are literally our culture. Fast casual. American contemporary. So this guy says America first and he wouldn't go to Red Lobster? Eat my ass.
Whether that attitude to African Americans in that instance permeated to you. It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think everybody knows what that is, but I'll address it. I'll engage with it and I'll defend my father from the charge of racism. No, my parents are not racist and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents. They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school and most of the clients were black. And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects in the city. And so my family being in Chicago, being ethnics, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, and the west side on Taylor Street, all over the city. My family for many generations have lived near and around black people. And look, my views about black people and their views about black people are shaped with experiences with black people. And what they will tell you, what my parents...
He's saying I have epigenetic trauma. My grandmother who lived in the projects, welfare queen, doesn't like black people because they discriminate against all black people based on an experience they had with somebody. You understand how dumb that is? Again, ape brain conservative. They're literally an ape brain. They look at somebody and they go, the skin color is how you know you can trust them. Like, are you dumber than dirt? God, they're stupid. Embarrassingly dumb.
Parents would say if they were here is that for many, many years, the older generations of black people were very respectful, very humble, very decent. In fact, my grandma used to have an anecdote. She grew up in a lot of dysfunction. Her mother was mentally ill, and they would be having dinner in the projects, and there'd be so much chaos. and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting. And she would look across the way out the window at a black family in the other apartment, and they'd be holding hands around the table saying grace. And this is sort of the culture that used to prevail. But now what you have in the city is that there's no accountability.
You don't live there. You have never interacted with them. You're just saying shit, you racist sack of shit.
Black people. And now Chicago has become a complete dump because these teenagers go out and they take over the city. They call them teen takeovers. That's the euphemism for it. They're teenagers, but they all come from the same neighborhood. They drive up there and they mug people and attack people and they destroy cars and destroy shops. We had the Festival of Lights a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be a family event. And they light up the trees and they, there's a big parade. I was in the parade one year and you had a bunch of black people there shooting each other. 7 people shot, a 14-year-old killed in the Magnificent Mile. And I know there's a lot of black people that feel the same way about this. They say, we've lost control of the city and we're looking for accountability. We have a lot of black people that are always outraged about racism, outraged about attitudes from white people, but they're never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of some of the things that go on. And that's why I think there's a lot of negative attitudes these days. And so
one of the things that's really interesting about this is Fuentes is really trying to say that we should have a politics where dysfunction of some individual should have racial shame attached. Like all black people should be judged by the worst of the worst. Now, how interesting that is. How interesting that is, because Donald Trump is robbing our fucking government blind, taking bribes from the Saudis and the Qataris, hand over fist, corrupt deals happening in crypto, all these things. Should all white people be judged by our white president, Donald Trump? Like, does this shoe hit the other foot ever? And the answer is, of course not, because they're the ones in positions of power. And I've said this before, you could tell if a group is marginalized if people try to describe collective guilt for the actions of an individual member of that group. That's how you could tell a group is marginalized. A 100% foolproof measure.
Again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I am. And so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I think anybody
and they don't support you, Nick. You are, if you're going by, what Chicago says goes. They hate you, Nick. They fucking despise you, you little pissant. Like, what are you talking about? You don't represent diverse views.
I'll tell you the same.
I live in London. It's one of the most.
By the way, notice how fascists could just spin this like meaningless id pool garbage into the. You know how easily it's manipulated by these right wingers. Like, look at how they can manipulate these terms. Diverse. You guys aren't even diverse like us. The fuck is this? And by the way, his fans like the fact that he's not saying anything coherent. They think it's funny the way that Nick is able to spin bullshit. Because again, by having a conversation with Nick, you've already beclowned yourself.
The biggest and most diverse cities in the world.
But it's not the same.
Well, actually, it's a big, diverse city. The only difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns. That's a whole different story. I don't want to get into that with you. I have got into that before in America.
You got a knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems with
Aladdin.
We have problems with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London.
By the way, is it better to get shot down on the street and bleed out and die, or have someone steal your bike? And what's interesting about this is even if you got rid of the gun violence, American stabbings are still high. It's not even low. It's not like they're substituting stabbings for shootings. We have shootings that are far and away higher, even if you were saying there were substitutions.
Because I'm not in Chicago.
I didn't say that.
Well, you kind of implied it, but I guess my point about the environment, I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that anecdote, which just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
you said this. We're looping. You said this already.
But you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with black Americans. Is that true?
No, well, See here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, this stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family. So
okay, so when you told
no.
the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote, which clearly on the face of it is racist, right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying? No. Well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion?
Well, I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat an Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food. Hang on, can I? What's with the interruptions? Can I explain?
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me to conclude a certain thing. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. Mm-hmm. And these people well, you're a boomer, I guess, too, in a way, 60. Right? You were born in what, 19? Yeah, so you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer. I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society. But you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is you're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this joke. Now you're a racist. And I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay. People can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position about that story is that it was a joke, okay? I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part?
Yeah. Yes.
But all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that, 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about...
He just makes up numbers. First it was 10,000 carjackings a day. There's 400 a year. Now he's saying 1 in 5 black men will commit a murder, which is just completely insane because the homicide rate in the U.S. is like 4 per 100,000. I mean, this guy is just fucking just says shit. He just says shit. And the thing is, it doesn't even matter. You could correct it all day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You correct him all day. Here's what I'll say. Nick, like, I'd love to have a conversation with Nick, but every single time he says something that totally made up without a source, I get to punch him in the face as hard as I can. That would be a good debate. Now, only if he would consent. I wouldn't want to make it an assault. This is not an attack. It would just be a mutually consented to debate. We could call it debate boxing, right? Where every time you say a point that's totally made up, the other person gets to punch you in the face as hard as they can. That would be a fun debate. I would do that debate with you. Now, I'm not saying I'm trying to attack. I'm not saying go attack him. I'm not saying go commit crimes. I'm proposing we have chess boxing. Let's have debate boxing.
People who murder people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that.
That's
you just said
problem.
Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
You think it's funny?
By the way, see how he's like smirking again. The problem with Nick and the problem with people like Nick is they have an adolescent attitude. They're actually adolescents. As you grow up, you go through various stages of development, and he's got arrested development, right? Which is when you're 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, you go through this kind of like boundary testing and rebelliousness stage. That is part of maturation. And the thing about Nick is he's got arrested development. And so he thinks that he's never been taught how to be a man. He's not a man, okay? He's not a man. He doesn't have any responsibility for society or others. He doesn't have honor, self-respect. He was never taught that his word is his bond. He never accepted what I would call masculine virtue. He is a smarmy little boy, a Nazi boy, who's just doing this to play. And he doesn't care if it kills people and ruins their lives. Because as I said before, he's a black-pilled nihilist who accepts the meaningless of human life, and the way that he deals with that fact is he uses it to twist and damage others for his own amusement, so he forgets how his life's going to end one day. It's all going to go black one day. And this kind of arrested development, as I said before, like, if you watch Nick Fuentes, the only response I have for you is, let me know where and when. He never got pussy. He doesn't even want pussy. He doesn't even want women. He doesn't want sex with women. He's a closeted boy. He's got the mentality of an adolescent. I think Destiny is pretty much identical in the same way that they approach. Like, Destiny and him are pretty much the identical guy. 4chan nihilism.
I think, yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
Do you think a black American would find it funny? You think that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago. You should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble. That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west, see what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
That's not true at all. Actually, in fact, this shows you how he knows nothing about black people. It's so funny how you know nothing about black people and you know no black people, you motherfucking rat. In fact, black people oftentimes stay in the communities when they make a little bit of money. They stay in their same communities and they actually serve as social support for their family. They help pay for so-and-so's college. They go help so-and-so's down payments. They can move into an apartment. They help somebody get a car. That's just wrong. Black people live in their communities. They don't actually leave as soon as they make money. You fucking dummy. Because they believe in community.
Okay, so what was just remind me again, the percentage of men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder. That's the most up-to-date crime statistic.
I mean, here you go. Like, the New York Times. Here it is. Here's an article. Affluent black and still trapped by segregation. Why well-off black families end up living in poorer areas than white families with similar or even lower incomes. Like, this is literally a known phenomenon that black people, even wealthier black people, stay in black neighborhoods. He's just wrong. He's just wrong. He's just stupid and wrong about every fucking thing. This is not new data. They didn't suddenly start moving out. This is the way it has been for a very long time. Like, he's dumb as fuck.
America.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official crime statistics say.
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's
on X by Data Hazard. Whoa, gosh, golly gee. Did it get a tweet on X said some number? Well, I'll jolly be.
Far more alarming than you would think.
Okay, but you would accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100, or you wouldn't accept that statistic?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
sure,
this is
a lot of white
problem.
people commit murder too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean,
if we're going by this number, I mean, this is one of the things that's always funny about these white supremacist non-whites is Bro, if we're going by, oh man, you know, it's a precautionary principle, all men should be in prison. Men commit like 95% of violent crime. If we're going by this precautionary principle, why are you free? If we're going to trample on the rights of black people because you claim that they're inferior, why don't we just trample on the rights of all men, right? Under that logic, men are much more violent than women. Precautionary principle rules. Notice that he's not proposing that for some reason. It's almost as if the numbers are not what he's using to make his discriminatory position. Mike, I think your tapestry is backwards. I put it backwards intentionally because the wall is red and the front side is red, but the back side is really cool, so I liked it. So I put it up backwards because it's awesome. Because my wall is red, so I didn't want a red tapestry on a red wall. So I'm using the back side, which is cool as fuck.
People are 65% of the population. Blacks are 13%. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people. And people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass shootings.
What's with the interruptions?
I'm sorry.
So the questions we have to ask ourselves are, what is the cause of violent crime? Really? Like that's really the question that's being asked. Except it's not. Because Nick Fuentes doesn't care what causes violent crime. Because white Americans commit a lot more crime than white Europeans do. So Nick is not really asking about what causes violent crime, right? He is really just saying violent crime is more endemic to poorer communities. Black people are in poorer communities, therefore black people are inferior. He's not actually trying to solve anything. He's justifying bigotry ex post facto. That's what he's doing. Facts are immaterial. The conclusion has been selected, and you just grab at whatever shit you can to justify it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why, again, the solution to the Nazi problem, there's only one debate. There's only one debate to solve the Nazi problem.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
One of the things that any kind of effective radical movement needs is dog whistles. We need to be able to signal to each other certain positions that may not be permissible to be transmitted directly, right? So that's an important thing to remember about how radical movements communicate to each other. And so you should keep an eye out for dog whistles from Nick here. And it's important you keep in your mind that the only debate you should be having with Nazis. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
Oh, you look at in Chicago, in New York, these neighborhoods are so stratified. People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd rather pay a much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the.
So what so what Nick is really talking about is America has created these ethnic or racial enclaves so they could defund the public services. They don't want to spend money on black children. So they concentrate black people into racial ghettos. They defund their social services. And then they move to white enclaves where they could take their taxes and have their children's services be funded at a high level. But there's no redistribution happening. In fact, oftentimes black inner cities have higher property tax rates than outside in the suburbs. It's very true of Pennsylvania because as you drive down property tax values because you have underfunded social services, what happens is the percentage tax rate to fund those social services has to go up because the underlying property values have declined. So you have a negative spiral where property tax values go down and millage rates go up. Again, this is basic shit. If you study public policy for more than 5 minutes, you know this to be true. He's just baffling idiots like Piers Morgan with bullshit.
Violence. And I think that when you look,
most violent crime and murder do not cross race backgrounds. White commit violent crimes and murders against other whites, and black commits violent crimes and murders against other blacks. That's because we live in a segregated society. In a perfectly segregated society, you would expect the rates of violence to among groups to largely match.
Even on the public transit, the subway, the blue line, you know, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. Call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
Chat, I want Christianity, but I also don't care about what Christianity says. I mean, the contradictions, I mean, what can you even say? What can you even say about these people other than what I said at the very beginning? It's all blather, it's all stupid, and it makes me roll my eyes because I have a functioning brain. But I also understand that they're not playing the game. So we need to throw the board. This guy doesn't want to play the game of intellectual debate and consistency and honor and respectability. Time to fight fire with a fucking nuclear bomb.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you really got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically sure
my father's...
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception.
Again, imagine getting tripped up by Piers Morgan because you're such an inconsistent baboon. Like, it is... only makes me dislike. He's not even white. That's the thing that's funny. Rich, you're not white. You're a mixed race guy, according to your terminology. You're not white, so you therefore cannot have white babies. It's the one drop rule, Nick. You're not white. Therefore, if you married a white woman, you would be creating a racial homogenization, a mongrelization, according to your logic. You're not white. Now, I say that because I understand that whiteness is arbitrary. But I'm applying the racial categories that Nick is arguing in favor of. You should not be allowed, according to you, Nick, to live in a white neighborhood. According to you, Nick, you should not be allowed to live in the white neighborhood because you're not white. I want you to understand that.
Everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist. You're right. So maybe everybody. The difference is you're attacking my father. You know, he could get fired from his job.
I'm not attacking your father.
You are.
No, I'm not. I don't know your father. And to be clear, I have no knowledge about him at all.
Well, then let's leave him out of it. Let's leave him out of it if you don't know him.
Hang on, Nick. You put that story into the public domain on your show. I'm simply reminding you of what you told everybody, millions of people, about your father. If you now want to retract it, fine. If you want to say it was a joke, which is what your position was earlier, fine. But I'm allowed to put to you things you've said publicly. That's not unfair. That's not me targeting your father. You put that story about him out there.
You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm asking you about a pretty shocking anecdote, which to me...
He's saying you're a fucking contradiction and you're nothing but a little boy who follows your daddy. Your daddy said no words and taught you that was okay, and you didn't even manage to make it through the adolescent stage where you evaluated your own father's dumbass shit.
He looked like you were saying your father made decisions about where you as a family would eat based on skin color of people who worked at these places. If you say, or use them, if you say that is not what you meant, that's fine. You can respond any way you like. But the idea I can't ask you about it without you saying I'm attacking your father is ridiculous.
Well, you are, and you know what you're doing. And there's a political culture in America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired from your job. And my father has a job. And if you go on here and say you charge him with racism or something, and I'm put in a position where I don't look like I'm sticking to my guns if I don't say my father's a racist, you're putting him in jeopardy. And he's not here to defend himself or explain his views. And it's very low. And I think you know exactly what you're doing, and people can see what you're doing. I'll defend my views. And I think that, so let's leave him out of it. Let's just not talk about my father because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well,
I'll
then do you accept that you shouldn't talk?
I'll defend the anecdote.
Listen, that's fine. But then do you accept you shouldn't talk about your father on your show? And you shouldn't tell...
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So it's fine for you to put a story out there would make most people who listened to that story or watched it at the time on your show conclude that he was racist. It's fine for you to do that. But if I then ask you about it, I'm the one who's being unfair and I've crossed a line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're being malicious.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, people are watching this live. They can draw their own conclusions about whether what I just did.
And they will.
Yeah, and I'm sure afterwards, by the way, you'll say, he ambushed me with your own words.
Whoa.
With your own words.
That's a little presumptuous. I'm not going to say it's an ambush, but I think that's a low blow. And I think you know what you're doing, and that's fine. You're a tabloid journalist. I expected that. I don't think it's an ambush because I knew it would be like this. And people will see what you're doing, and I think they'll say it's low. But as far as you want to talk about racism,
I do.
Let's talk about racism. Let's leave my dad out of it.
Look, you've admitted you're a racist.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Own it.
Okay, that's fine. You're perfectly entitled in a free democratic society to stare down the barrel of his camera and tell me you're a racist. People can judge you accordingly. Many people who have assumed that you're a racist will now have heard it from your own lips. That's fine.
There you go.
That's the point. The point of this interview is to go over the things you've said, which.
By the way, chat, this is actually, I want to say, I don't, 2 cheers for Pierce, because he got Nick Fuentes to say he's a racist. All right. So Nick Fuentes says he's a racist. Now later, when people are like, no, he was just kidding, and then they do the cope. It doesn't matter. We've got the clip. He says he's a racist. If you're okay with being a racist, and you're a fucking racist, that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be useful for us in the future. God, it's going to be so fun when President AOC happens. I'm going to volunteer to be on the Austin cleanup crew. We're going to go door-to-door wellness checks, looking for anybody who's like a hoarder, who has pests, and we're going to make sure that everybody lives in habitable conditions.
Have led people to reach conclusions about you and to ascertain whether those conclusions are fair and reasonable or not. That's it.
Thank
I want
you.
to play you another clip. This is what you talk about why white people are justified in being racist. Let's take a listen to this.
First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
You stand by that?
Absolutely.
So white people should go out of their way to avoid black people when they see them?
Absolutely. They would be wise, because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition. So no, I think that white people have been beaten into submission, that we're afraid to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that when you go into these major cities like New York or Chicago, I believe she was in North Carolina, there is a menace, which is young, black, adolescent men. They're extremely violent. And we have been told that we have to pretend like they are every other person. We have to be colorblind to that. And we're supposed to go and
see, the most important factor here is that they're adolescent men, not that they're black men, that they're adolescent. And the difference between the way that black men are treated and young white men are treated when they commit crimes is part of how the racialized system operates. 18-year-old white man commits a rape, he gets a slap on the wrist. 13-year-old boy injures a classmate copying wrestling moves, prosecuted as an adult. This is the reality. Is like, and again, this is why Nick is not a serious person, because if he was being a pure utilitarian, going by the numbers alone, then young men of every race and denomination, white, black, Asian, I don't give a shit, they would all be considered a threat. Now, obviously, you wouldn't agree to that, because I'm a man. I don't want my rights violated if I haven't done anything wrong. I want to be judged as an individual based on what I've done as an individual, what actions I've taken before my rights are violated. That's what we're calling for. I'm not calling for people to be able to invade your rights or harm you and get away with it. No. I want to actually have you judged by the content of your character. I want you to be judged based on what you have done. I don't want anybody taking shortcuts to prejudge you. I don't want you to hate Asmongold because he's a white man. I want you to hate Asmongold because he's a racist. He's filthy. He surrounds himself by trash. He neglects his responsibilities. He doesn't shower. He spreads pests in his neighborhood, and he's a racist. That's why I want you to hate Asmongold. I want you to hate Asmongold because he likes Nick Fuentes. I don't want you to hate Asmongold because he's a white man. I want you to hate him because he's a gamer who can't fucking game. So that is the reality. is he's arguing for your rights to be violated based on the color of your skin, as opposed to the content of your character. And, you know, I hate to use the Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream speech, but it is fair to say that Nick Fuentes is the inverse of any idea America had about allowing individuals to rise and fall based on their own merit. That's why I call it warlordism, because it's purely arbitrary, it's incoherent, and it's about a cult of personality.
Be in the midst of all this danger. And I think that
Do you think platforming people like Nick is good or bad overall? I personally think that we should be platforming people like Nick Fuentes. I think we should be platforming people like Nick Fuentes. I think we should be platforming people like Asmongold. I think more people should listen to the I am a racist and they don't take a shower guys. I think they should be like, this represents the right. And then they should platform Zohran Mamdani, AOC, and Hassan on the left. Platform those people and then platform these guys. All right? And let the chips fall where they may. I think we should heighten the contradictions. I think we should increase the stakes. You vote for AOC and Hassan, we're going to get out of the wars. We're going to fucking have free healthcare. We're going to fix the roads. We're going to get the homeless off the streets. We're going to have a society that is functional and clean and fair. They win, you're going to be ruled over by a guy who can't remember to wash his asshole or wipe it. Heighten the contradictions. Increase the polarization. And when you're asking yourself, what should you do? The answer should be derived from the question, what would John Brown do? What would John Brown do? That is the motto of the stream. What would John Brown do?
At this point, it's gotten out of control. You look at the BLM movement, they said that the reason that black people, are violent, or the reason there's crime, is because of police brutality, or redlining, or all these other things. They said we need to get rid of the police. We need to defund them. And a lot of cities did. A lot of cities like Chicago, for example.
There was absolutely no cities that defunded the police. Not one. And in fact, defund the police is not, by the way, crime went down, dumb fuck. The crime rose in the pandemic era before George Floyd protests. It was at early 2020, 2019 that you saw those spikes in crime from the shutdowns. That's when you saw the spikes in crime. And then the George Floyd protests happened as a reaction to police brutality. And by the way, crime has declined in every major metro. And in fact, it declined fastest where? Where did crime decline the fastest? And you know when, by the way, you know when Philly had the highest homicide rate? 1985, 5 years into the Reagan Revolution. That's when Philadelphia had the highest murder rate. You fucking worthless sacks of shit, conservative losers. Philadelphia is solving homicides at the fastest rate in 40 years. Who is the DA of Larry motherfucking Krasner? Larry motherfucking Krasner, who was the pro bono attorney of Black Lives Matter in Philadelphia. He's on his third term as district attorney. They're solving the murder rates at the highest time in 40 years. Fastest decline in homicide. Most successful anti-crime DA. I thought electing the progressives would make everything suck. What happened? What fucking happened? By the way, they don't have anything in about his term in office on Wikipedia. Wow. That's incredible. They don't have anything about Larry Krasner on his Wikipedia. Why is it not have anything? There's got to have been other versions about this. What happened? Okay, maybe this is the district attorney. Okay, sorry. I have to go to Larry Krasner's. Okay, I was on the wrong page. I was on the district attorney page. Sorry. Here we go. Krasner won May 16, 2017. Democratic primary, 38% of the vote. Krasner faced Carlos Vega in the Democratic primary. Vega was fired by Krasner for the Philadelphia DA office when Krasner began implementing reforms within the office. In the lead up to the primary, the Philadelphia Police Union instructed its members to switch party affiliation to the Democratic Party so they could vote for Krasner's opponent. The top spender of the campaign was a political action committee formed by retired cops. During the campaign, Krasner's opponents argued that criminal justice reform policies had contributed to an increase in violent crime. In May 18th, the Associated Press called the primary for Krasner leading 65-35 with 22% of the votes counting. And there you have it, chat. Reporting cited a coalition of predominantly African-American wards and progressive activist groups as helping overcome his lack of support from the local Democratic On February 18, 2025, Krasner officially launched his bid for third term as Philadelphia District Attorney. He was challenged in the Democratic primary by Patrick Dugan, a 17-year-old Philadelphia Municipal Court judge who quit in 2024 to run for the office. Dugan, previously known for establishing diversion courts, argued the justice system had tilted too far toward leniency and campaigned for a tougher approach. Dugan outraised Krasner by approximately $400,000 of the primary, securing over $900,000. Krasner's $500,000. Despite this and the city's Democratic Party declining to endorse him, Krasner won May 20th, 2025 Democratic primary 64-35. Although Dugan lost in the Democratic primary, a campaign organized by Republicans encouraging GOP primary voters to write in his name garnered him 6,000 votes, qualifying him as the Republican nominee. Immediately after the primary, Dugan said he would not run as a Republican, but in August reversed course and appeared on the general election ballot as the Republican candidate. He stated he would not stand by and allow Mr. Krasner's failed policies to continue to hold our city hostage. This move drew angry condemnations from Democratic leaders, including Philadelphia Democratic Party Chair Bob Brady. It caused a former core Dugan supporter, Building Trades Council leader Ryan Boyer, to switch his endorsement to Krasner. The general election campaign was described as a muted affair with no debates, little money raised, and Krasner holded no campaign events. Dugan received a last-minute endorsement from the FOP. Krasner defeated him with 76% of the vote. In September 2021, Krasner started an alternative felony diversion program for people charged with illegal possession of firearms. In 2024, it was reported that the program was associated with a 76% reduction in rearrests. His conviction integrity unit exonerated 25 people convicted under previous DAs. They tried to impeach his ass. They did everything. The establishment in Pennsylvania, Republican and Democrat, have done everything they can to get rid of him. And they fucking failed. So, fastest murder rate, fastest declining in murder rate. Like, I'm sorry for this diversion, but the point is that the establishment that Nick Fuentes is a part of, I want you guys to understand that, chat. Nick Fuentes is part of the establishment. Nick Fuentes is 100,000% part of the establishment. He's just the final, he is the velvet glove stripped off the iron fist. That is the reality. He is them.
The police changed the rules of engagement. They don't chase them. It's not a felony if you steal a certain amount of merchandise. They won't chase them on foot. And now the city's totally up for grabs. And now whether you're in the Gold Coast or whether you're on the Mag Mile or you're in the worst neighborhoods in the city, you might get shot, you might get mugged, someone might run up on you. And I tell my followers, it is better to be perceived as racist or racist and walk the other way and maybe keep your life than to say, I'm a good anti-racist. I don't mind that this person's making me uncomfortable. Maybe he's looking a little.
In a statement, DHS called the Tropic crime a historic win against violent, criminal, illegal alien crime. Several weeks before federal immigration agents descended upon the Chicago area, local officials were already touting a significant drop in violent crime. Chicago sees 33% drop in homicides through first half of 2025. What the fuck is Nick talking about?
Froggy, I'm going to sit down because I'm a good person and get stabbed, mugged, whatever. And by the way, this is a strategy. They call it the friendly stranger. There's a crew of them. They do this in Chicago. They stand outside bars, black people. They approach strangers. It's a robbery crew. And they pretend to be a friendly stranger, and then they mug them. And stupid white people say, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. You know, they grin, they laugh, they put up with the nonsense, and then they get mugged, or worse.
What I want you to understand, I want to have a conversation about this with you, because this is what I'm talking about with Nick Fuentes in particular. I wouldn't even call this a kernel of truth, but I would say that, yes, there are flim-flam men. There are con men. There are muggers. There are pickpockets. You have to have street smarts, you know? There are criminals. There are antisocial personalities that exist in our society. Everybody understands this. And I don't think that because you believe in building systems that produce less of these people, that suddenly means you deny they exist today. Everybody understands that there are damaged, broken people in our society today that are a threat. Everybody understands a drunk driver is a dangerous driver. Okay? Nobody is confused about this. And I'm sure that there has been muggings like this. I'm sure people have been tricked by sociopaths before and assaulted. But the question you have to ask yourself is not whether being in fear of all black people is going to make you safer. It won't. The question you have to ask is, how do we cut down on antisocial behavior? How come that question is not the question being asked by Nick Fuentes? Nick Fuentes is just drawing up these stories to give you fuel to hate black people. He's not drawing up these stories to build a public policy that will actually solve anything, unless you think rounding up all black people and putting them in prison is a good public policy. That's why he's a child. He's 12 years old mentally.
Sometimes they get executed. And so as a white person,
how do you feel about mass shootings at school?
I think they're bad.
Who do you think commits the vast majority of the mass shootings?
I'm sure it's white people.
So how do you feel about that?
I think that white people do more antisocial violence. I think black people participate in more gang violence. I think that's the difference.
What's the difference to the victim?
Okay. If that's the case, that's an interesting point. That means that white people are inherently more dangerous, because gang violence is a socially determined violence. It is a violence of the marginalized forming bands outside of the stable society, and they're forced into a place where there is not a sovereign to hold everyone in awe, where there isn't public order, where the police treat them as an occupied population, where they do not serve and protect, where there isn't institutions and funding available for civil society. So gang violence is ad hoc and done in a socially confirmed situation, whereas antisocial violence is something's wrong with your brain and you go out there and you lash out at other people with no rhyme or reason. I understand why a gang does what it does. It's materially interested. There are social benefits. You want to feel important? You want to make money? Join the gang. That everyone understands that. If you ever fantasized about being a cowboy, a cattle rustler, or a mafioso, if you ever thought about or you ever found it romantic, or you were ever morbidly fascinated by the criminal underworld or organized crime, you understand the appeal of a gang. Or if you ever wanted to be a cop, ew. So it's a hell of a lot easier to fix gang violence. You integrate and assimilate that community into greater society, and you give them a path of dignity where they can follow the rules and see success in life. People don't want to commit violence. We all have a inborn resistance to committing violence. In order to commit violence against other people, it has to be acculturated. It has to be socially enforced or enabled by desperation. If you give people a path to success and recognition, people are going to take that path. If you give them nothing but nihilism, they're going to crack back. That's just reality.
There's no difference to the victim, but it's a different kind of crime, and it's a different proportion also. Do you know what percentage of white people are school shooters?
I know that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools in America this century were perpetrated by young white men. And I'm just,
what proportion
I'm curious. I'm curious whether your advice would be to people who have kids in these schools.
Is my mic working?
What proportion? Should they avoid white people at school? Should people with the kids at school avoid young white men at school?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what per capita means? Do you know proportionality? There are more black people proportionally that engage in violent crime or are involved in gangs, especially in these major cities, than there are white people that are school shooters compared to the entire white population. And everybody understands that.
Two-thirds of mass shootings at school perpetrated by white people.
But what proportion of white men commit school shootings? That's the question.
I've just told you. It's 60-65% of school shootings by white people.
You're telling me what proportion of school shootings are committed by white people. I'm saying what proportion of white people have committed school shootings. Are you playing dumb, or are you just not?
The point is a matter. See, the thing is, this is why Nick is stupid. And by the way, if you're dumb, you may not understand this, but I'll explain it to you. Nick, buddy, pal, friend, you are talking about rare events, and then you're trying to say all black people should be put in prison because a proportion of the black population, mostly young men, are violent. And Pierce is saying, well, school shooters are overwhelmingly white, and that's a very dangerous safety threat. Should we put all white people in prison? And you're going, well, no, it's the proportionality is different. It's like, yes. What percentage of total black people do you think are committing gang violence? Like, this is nonsensical bullshit. And he's going to be like, well, there's a big distinction. The number of white people committing school shootings is low and therefore irrelevant. But the number of black people that commit gang violence, that's actually above a threshold. What's that threshold? I don't know. I just made it up. One of the things that's really funny about this is it's just, again, he's trying to bamboozle you with bullshit. Are you falling for it?
What difference does that make to the children lying dead on the ground?
See, now you want to jump on the victims. The difference is you're asking, would you fear white people or black people? And that's the difference. The difference is
what I'm saying to you is by your logic.
By the way, Chad, didn't I call it out from the very beginning where it was just like, he's just a little boy who's scared. Did you get that? Like, did I not call it out from the very, very beginning?
If we now have agreed that the vast majority of mass shootings in schools are committed by white people and predominantly young white men, then presumably your advice would be to avoid young white men because they perpetrate these massacres. But it won't be because they're white.
So are you playing dumb or are you actually dumb?
Maybe
it's
I'm
about
dumb.
proportionality.
Maybe I'm dumb.
You are because well, I don't think you are dumb. I think you're smart actually, but you're deliberately avoiding per capita. And everybody knows that's the difference. What proportion of white men are school shooters? It's probably 0.00001%. What proportion of black men have committed violent crimes? It's probably like 5%. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's very high. And I would add to that, even as it can.
This is the Asmongold-ification of political discourse. The Asmongold-ification of political discourse is I just say numbers out loud randomly and say, that sounds to me about right. Like, legitimately, I have to say, you are dumber than fucking dirt. You really are dumber than dirt. It is incredible to be like, well, it's probably 0.001 and then it's probably 5.
Concerned schools. Why do you think parents pay a super high property tax to live in a school district where there's white people? Because they know that if they go to the black school, it's going to be the Bloods and the Crips. It's going to be gangs. It's going to be, you talk about school shootings. Nobody talks about all the school shootings that are committed by gangbangers in and around the school and all the other violence that's associated with that. I mean, these schools in the south side of Chicago, it's just not livable.
I have an answer for you, Nick. So the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings is actually the same for black and white.
For white people, the proportion of
the proportion
again,
of the population.
are you hearing it? No.
So I think the trouble with your statistics is a lot of them don't bear much scrutiny. We have a bunch of fact checkers checking all this in real time because you do have a tendency to just come out with a lot of old baloney. And when you say, well, it's true. And when you're confronted with reality, you don't like it.
What's the figure? What proportion of white people have committed school shootings? With white people as the denominator and white people that have committed school shootings as the numerator, what's that percentage?
For both black and whites, the proportion of the population who carry out mass shootings generally is about the same.
No. Tell me the number, and then
you're the only focus of your attention.
What? Denim's raid. Sorry, hey Denim's Raiders. We are watching the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life, which is, I have to say, this is one of those moments where I don't know if I come across as arrogant, but the fact that Destiny was enamored with Nick Fuentes had to have been some sort of crush, because the guy is dumber than dirt. Every single time he's tried to bring up some sort of like argument or point, it's just been completely made up. He said that there are 10,000 carjackings a day in Chicago. So I looked it up and there were 455 carjackings this year in the city of Chicago. 455. Now, that's a lot. I mean, one a day, well, a little bit more than one a day. That's a lot. But 10,000 a day versus 450? Only the dumbest pieces of shit could be enamored by this man. And ultimately, it goes back to the Sartre quote, where he doesn't care about these numbers. If I made a mistake that bad, I'd be embarrassed about it for a while. Also, hey, Denim's Chatters, do you see? We're doing a background. We have a background. Oh, I want to show you guys a little Easter egg. Theo got me this. We got our Parenti shelf. And I knocked something. I knocked out a candle. It's all good. The house is burning down. We got it, chat. I mean, come on. Look how quickly we fixed that. Mine was signed by G, then send that to me immediately. Does chat not have heaters indoors? Is it uncommon to wear shorts indoors? It's 72 degrees, chat. It's 72 degrees outside right now. I'm sorry, chat. It's 72 outside. Do you think that you're supposed to wear pants at 72? He's trolling, right? No. Isn't 72 cold for LA? I don't know what these fucking idiots feel about weather. I just know what I do, an adult, feel about weather. 72 is shorts weather. I don't give a fuck what LA softies think. Adon doesn't wear short pants. Very true.
The black shootings, you don't want to live around black people. You want to avoid black people. You don't want interracial marriages or relationships that may produce.
Welcome in Denim Shatter. How is the denim stream? What did Denims talk about today? Why is the tapestry backwards? Because I like it that way. I like it. It's kind of cool. I like the backside of the tapestry. I did it intentionally. I think it looks base. I gotta catch the Denims VOD. I bet it was another banger. Oh, so true. Streamer Awards and Ben Shapiro. Oh yeah, I should watch some of that Ben Shapiro stuff.
People. When I point out to you that there are many parts of crime in America where actually there's a majority of white people that perpetrate them, you don't care. You don't have any interest in that. It doesn't exercise your mind. Maybe because you don't.
See, no one's buying this. This
kids.
argument lost. No one is buying this. Everybody understands per capita, and people can even see what you race ahead and say, well, we're comparing the proportion of white and black school shooters. I said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue, is that you're very likely, if you encounter black people or a young black man in the city, that you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, of a robbery, a mugging, a car theft, a carjacking, or a murder. That's the difference, and it's about proportionality. And everybody sees past that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment. People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment, and we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger, in terms of probability, it's not even comparable. And I would say this, to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they got their pants around the ankles.
Jalopy with pants around the ankles. All I can say about Nick Fuentes is he, honest to God, sounds like he was raised listening to Pat Buchanan clips. I've never seen a 20-something-year-old say jalopy. He sounds like an 85-year-old racist. And based on his background, I think he's just been sitting in the basement watching Pat Buchanan speeches. He sounds like a boomer. He sounds like a boomer, and he's so excited to get his racism out. I also want to say that, like, the way he talks about politics is surprisingly small. It is on the level of a paranoid suburban cul-de-sac owner. You know the type that gets furious if the kid's ball gets on their yard. God forbid it gets to the backyard. It's a fucking nuclear bomb going off. That's his level of politics. Suburban cul-de-sac paranoiac. There's no sense of the scale and scope of human destiny. Even human racial destiny, because he can't really claim part of that. What's so funny about Nick Fuentes, because he is mixed race, he can't really talk about narratives as grand as racial destiny. The people that he's trying to crib the SparkNotes version of Mein Kampf over here, he doesn't have the ability or the wherewithal to really make those arguments. And so it is your right to be afraid of the poor black people. That's why you're in your suburban neighborhood. Does this even really apply to do you guys really think that this nostalgic for a time like boomer racism is going to win? You think this guy has a strong enough personality to win? I mean, say what you will about Donald Trump. At least he has a strong presence and he has a big personality and he's bombastic. Nick Fuentes looks like a twink that would be eager to be the understudy on the Cats musical. Donald Trump at least looks like he runs the musical. And you don't want to know what Nick had to do to Trump to get that understudy position. We use position intentionally. I mean, Nick went down to audition with Donald Trump. He met him at Mar-a-Lago and he didn't pass muster. He didn't make it. You know, Trump wouldn't look at Nick and go, yeah, that guy passes through central casting. He likes him a little bit more masculine.
You're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often.
Can we just talk about what he says about running? There's not even a masculine fantasy here of being a hero, of being the guy who defends hearth and home. There's no language of confrontation. I mean, this is like he's running away. He's fearful. This is your fucking guy, Nazis? I'm gonna run away, guy? Listen to this shit one more time.
Ask that because we all live in reality. You want to talk about product of your environment? People that live in New York, Chicago, LA, we live in reality. We live in this environment and we see what it's like. And the threat, the danger in terms of probability it's not even comparable. And I would say this to your point. If you're in a high school and truly, if you see a white person who looks like a little autistic, he's got the SSRI stare and he reaches for a backpack, people joke and say, run. Similarly, if you see a jalopy pulling up with a bunch of black people in it and they
what percentage of Nick's audience do you think is that perfectly describing? All of them?
Got their pants around the ankles, you're going to run also. And I'm saying the same thing. The difference is the latter happens much more often. It's much more common. You know, in Chicago, there's like 10,000 carjackings and car thefts every day. It's in the thousands. It happens all the time. How many mass shootings committed by autistic SS?
The backwards tapestry is driving me insane. Sorry, but you're just gonna have to accept the backwards tapestry because it's a red wall. It's a red wall, and I don't want to put a red tapestry on a red wall. Sorry, but you're just gonna have to accept. I like it backwards, even though you made it. The rose looks great backwards. I spent so much time on that rose. I know it looks great.
SRI white people, I don't even know. I mean, it's probably in the single digits in the last decade in this city. That's the difference, and everybody knows that. But
I am screaming so hard. The artist, VO. What do you want to say to the artist? You know what we say, chat? We call it the death of the artist. We call it the death of the artist. Once you create your art and you hand it off to the world, we can reincarnate it and reimagine it. And in your case, flip and reverse it.
Just trying to carry water for liberal ideology. It's an ideological position.
I'm really not. I can absolutely say, yes, there is way too much on black crime, for example, involving guns in Chicago.
And black on white also.
Yes, but there is way too much gun violence in Chicago. I mean,
hangs it on the wall backwards. Now it's art. Exactly.
It's indisputable. I've got no problem saying that. The difference is I don't then lead myself into a thought process where I have to avoid all black people in case they shoot me. And you've already conceded that you are a racist. So when people hear you then say, I don't want to be living anywhere near black people, they already have heard you say, I'm a racist. So they assume you're doing that because of people's skin color. I don't think you would probably dispute that, right?
Well, you're separating two different things. The monologue, when I said I don't want to live around black people, that was after Irina Zarutska got shot. And it's true. I mean, they are a largely in this city, in Chicago, the South Side, the West Side, huge criminal population. And I don't want to live anywhere near it. And I do. I want to live in a white neighborhood. I think that that's extremely desirable. And I think even black people do.
Nick.
But you don't qualify. You don't qualify. What do you mean? You want to live in a white neighborhood? You ain't white. Get them out. But do you understand how ridiculous that sounds? Because when you allow, I mean, like the thought process, you think quarter Mexicans were allowed into the exclusive white neighborhoods back when racism was okay? Like, what do you mean you want to live in a white neighborhood? You mean you want to live in a nice neighborhood? That's everybody, you dumb fuck. You're saying we should deny based on race. Well, you're not white, so you're saying it should be denied to you? You're advocating for your own annihilation? Nick, you don't need to advocate for it. You have the means.
You're perfectly entitled to that view. But when you have obviously prefaced all this by saying, I am a racist, unashamedly, then people will assume that all your thought processes about all of these issues are driven.
I found this wild clip of his mom on his show. What is this?
Some people got in a fight in the movie theater. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. Who gets in fights in the movie theater? Who's
You tell me. Who gets in fights in the movie theater?
Probably the same people that are fighting everywhere else, like airports and malls and.
You think? Yeah.
Safari
So,
Land.
Yeah. So the whole mall locked down for hours. Can't get in or out. 3 innocent people hit in the crossfire, and no information on the shooters. And why do you think that is?
It's the Ann Coulter rule. The longer it takes for them to publicize the identity, the higher likelihood they're not one. Yeah.
That's what I think of the shooting in Oak Brook. Makes me sick to my stomach. I liked when he said "and KFC" in the same sentence. I'm sorry. Do chefs work at KFC?
Yeah, Chef Latanya. Really? Chef Letitia.
Yeah, he's like, Chef LaQuisha. He's like the chef at KFC. Anyways,
I love how you come in and you tell me, well, you're being, you act like you're not my mom,
I'm sorry.
right? You come in and you're like, oh, it's good you're finally being nice for once. And then how long did that take before you're calling out blacks? You're calling out guys?
I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm gonna.
Yeah,
be
where
nice
do I
for
get it? Where do I
Christmas.
get it?
I don't. I have no idea. You get it from your dad.
That would be pleasant.
All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk to me about? You think that covers it?
Yeah, I think we did
Okay.
it. Well, yeah, I'll see you later, I guess.
All right, hon. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow for Christmas.
All right. Yeah. See ya.
Okay. Okay.
The happiest moment of Nick Fuentes' life, his date with the cat boy.
Yeah, everyone always talks about who's taller. So
I'm taller.
Yeah, he's clearly
taller.
Well, Nick's 7 foot, and I'm only like 6'9".
You're walking on the curb right now. I can't see where you're walking. It's not you're walking on the curb.
So, me and Nick were hanging out last night. We come home. Yeah.
Driven by an aversion to people based on their skin color, which is the purest personification of racism.
Well, it's not an aversion. I would say it's the opposite. I like my own people. My own people are familiar to me, and I think that's true across the board. I think that people seek out other people that are like themselves, and every other group does this, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, Asians. I get a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage. Jews,
But you're the
Chinese,
product of an interracial marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not
Let's
really.
say for the sake of
Not
argument,
really.
sure.
No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father is part Mexican. You're literally,
For the sake of
you're
argument,
literally
we
the
could
very
say sure.
person you've just told me you want to avoid.
What race is Hispanic? Is that a race?
Well, what do you think it is?
Oh wait, now suddenly he's woke. Wait, now we've got him wokening. Now we've got an awakening from our pal, our friend. Now suddenly Hispanic is not a race. That's been my point. You're saying that Hispanic immigrants are diluting our racial character, but it turns out the majority of Latin Americans self-identify as white. So you're basically white Catholics that what? Speak Spanish? Oh my God! They're white Catholics, but they speak Spanish instead of English. We're all going to be destroyed. Honestly, Nick, you have the name of a Latin American dictator. Nicolas Fuentes could easily be from from Venezuela. Like, what are you talking about? You ain't white.
I'm asking you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic, of course, it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
It's a mix.
It's not a race. Hispanic. This is actually funny because it's not a race. Hispanic is actually not a race. It's a description of a regional culture. It doesn't actually have racial character. In America, we will talk about Hispanic because it's a linguistic cultures. And Latin America refers to Spanish and Portuguese cultures. That's why we call it Latin, because it's romantic languages. But Portuguese and Spanish are related, but not the same. So we say Latin America or Hispanic. It is not a racial category because there's lots of white Hispanics. According to Pew Research, Hispanic population reached more than 62 million in 2020. Okay, I might have to go on to page like 2 or whatever the fuck. Oh God. Basically, let's just say between, you know, self-identity as white shifts in this group. Okay, this is I'm gonna have to peel through this to find exactly what I'm talking about. But basically, you could be white Hispanic.
Mix between two races. It's a mix between indigenous Americans
It's not
and
white, though,
Europeans.
is it? It's not white.
Well, you're apparently you're more of a racial purist than me. You got like
Not
a
really.
one-drop
You just
rule
keep
thing
saying you
going.
only want to live in a
Kind of.
white neighborhood, but you're literally from a mixed race background yourself.
So you would not be allowed in, exactly. And in fact, it would often keep out Catholics too. So if we were getting really, really pure, you keep out the mixed race? Definitely. What the real question is, should we admit Catholics and Jews?
And I live Mexican blood.
I know, and I live in a non-white neighborhood too. I'm trying to get out of here though, but I'm trying to get out. But here's the thing.
Do you have any non-white? Do you have any non-white friends? Genuine question.
Most of my friends are non-white. Most of my friends are not, and non-white people.
The fucking internet, man, is so funny. The internet is so fucking funny. I think that's a good place for us to call it for today. But like, and I forgot to shill today. Fuck, whatever, it's fine. We'll do it tomorrow. This is the reality of the internet. Because we're all mediated through screens, there's no longer any need. You can just occupy whatever you want. It's like on Twitter, more and more people are realizing that a lot of the far right bait accounts are literally Indians. One of the most famous alt-right provocateurs, Ian Miles Chung, lives in Indonesia. These people cosplay blue-eyed, blonde-haired, Aryan, Anglo-Saxon Protestants, whatever the fuck. I'm sorry, Malaysia. You're right. It was not Indonesia. It's Malaysia. Thank you for correcting me. This shit is not... It's so funny. They just play act as something that they're not. Nick, you're not white. All right, everybody. I'm going to call it there. Embarrassing. Nick Fuentes is a joke. That's what makes him a success. He's a clown. He doesn't actually have to convince you of anything. He doesn't have to actually convince you of anything. Just press the button. He doesn't have to convince you. Mike, compared to 2020, would you say the left is stronger today? The left is much stronger than it is in 2020. Part of the reasons why the left is stronger is that the annoying Tumblr woke people are a lot less powerful and people don't really tolerate it as much as they used to. If it was 2020, we would be wasting our time in like these infinite purity spiral woke rad lib bullshit. And there's less rad lib shit happening now than there was in 2019. 2019 was an absolute disaster. People were like, I can't believe you're going to vote for Bernie Sanders. He's a white man. You don't hear that kind of shit anymore. I can't believe you racists want to vote for Bernie Sanders, an old white man. Well, we have a real progressive Kamala Harris. She's a black woman too. Like, we don't have that shit anymore. And the reason why is because it's vacuous and Kamala Harris was never left wing. But people would use identity in place of like actual arguments. We don't have that anymore. Now we have people that are like, why isn't Zohran Mamdani leading the armed revolution right now as mayor-elect? That's the annoying people we have now. The American left isn't doing military resistance of the U.S. Army. They're just posturing. They're fake woke. Like, that's the annoying people today, and most people are able to see past that. If it were 2019, the biblical right of Somali immigrants to Minnesota wouldn't be accepted. Oh, yeah, of course. Grateful Gringo is right. As Mike says, you better fill up your gas tank when you get to 1/4 tank or less, or it's 2 strikes. 2 strikes. Part of having a relationship is recognizing flaws of your partner that you can live with and what flaws you can't. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm never woke scolding. I'm just autistic and particular about language. Me too. Trust me. That's one of my flaws. The reason why I get particular about language for me personally is that I want to communicate. And if you're using language wrong, it creates confusion. So I try to be precise with my terminology so as to communicate my ideas more fully. And so I interpret people what they say very, 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 very precisely. And sometimes that's overly precise. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm sending guys, gals, non-binary pals over to VO. Thank VO for helping decorate my background. I have a background now. Is it better or worse? Do you guys like the background or do you hate the background? It's, you know, it's obviously going to continue to develop. Nick Fuentes hates workers. Yeah, I know. I saw that. It's a girly background. Good. I knew it was too well done to be Mike, a man. Of course. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. The tapestry is absolutely beautiful. Can the artist tomorrow come back and make sure you have some links so that people can support you? I want to do that. And message me on Discord. Yell at me about it being reversed. All right, everybody. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends. I appreciate all of you. And free Palestine. All right, everybody. Peace. Say hi to Vio for me. I'll see you tomorrow. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific.